drive home. Let's just start the show. Now, it's time for Jon Jim.
What's going on, San Diego? Jon and Jim on a Wednesday. It is my birthday. Today is officially my birthday. I'm not like the biggest birthday person in the world, but now I am married to somebody who is, I'm not going to say unfortunately, because I actually kind of low-key love it. She is like, you're not going to be celebrated on just your birthday. You are going to be celebrated for the entire week of your birthday. She is a week, borderline month celebrator for birthdays that are for people that are close to her. So I have to start today by giving a shout out to my wife. This morning, I woke up. I had to be in for an early sales meeting. Brent saw me at 9:45.
Yeah, when I got here.
You're like, what are you doing here, bro?
I didn't even look up because I thought you were just like a salesperson. So, and then I looked up and I was like, oh, it's like, what the hell are you doing here already?
What are you doing here? But I had to come in early for a sales meeting at 9 a.m. So I was up at around 7, and Erin was over topping me, and she goes, "It's your birthday." It's like, I want to sleep for 30 more minutes, please. But unfortunately, she would not allow me to. But this morning, woke up and she had the works. She had everything out for me. She ordered me coffee. She got me 3 different types of donuts. She got me a maple bar. She got me a chocolate donut. And then she also got me this churro maple donut. They were all from Randy's, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Shout out Randy's. They were delicious. I still actually have some over at my desk over there that I brought to work. And then she bought me this brand new hat that I'm wearing. You can see it if you're watching us on YouTube here. And then she bought me cards and she got me little other stuff. So I just wanted to say thank you to my wife because she feels like it's her obligation to do everything possible the entire week for my birthday to make me feel special. And I just wanted to give a shout out to her for doing all that. It's nice to have a wife, Brent, that likes doing those things and is excited for other people's birthdays, because I'm kind of like a low-key type of guy. I don't really like to say to people, "Hey, it's my birthday. Hey, it's my birthday." Obviously on the board out here.
That's the only reason. Then Facebook, that's the only reason people know my birthday.
It's I don't remember anybody's birthdays until I see it on Facebook, because Facebook will remind you. I have to be
reminded, yes.
And if I don't get reminded, it's going to be hard for me to remember other people's birthdays besides now my wife and my mom and my dad. But yeah, thanks, Erin. Love you, babe. Appreciate all that. All right. So today's show, we have a good one for you. Bryce Miller from the UT, he's going to join us at 2:30. He was at FanFest, or he wrote an article about FanFest this past weekend for the Padres. We'll talk to him about his takeaway from this past weekend, also his outlook on the Padres this season and his view on their offseason so far. Buddy Darnay Tripp is going to join us at 4 p.m. today. He had no choice.
I say he keeps his streak of joining us when Jon is not here alive.
Correct. He had no choice but to join me today, or at least one time this week. So he'll be on the show at 4 p.m. Also, we have a pair of Aztec tickets to give away against Boise State coming up on the 15th. So that's next weekend. We'll give those away during Trainwreck Radio. But I want to start here today on the show with what I read in Fangraphs the other day. So Fangraphs, they also have their projections for playoff teams and who they think are going to be good or not. We talked about Pacoda and their projections the last couple days. Fangraphs, they came out, they gave their projections. I'm not going to go over their projections. It's pretty much the same as Pacoda. They don't view the Padres as a team that is going to really, make some noise this year to make the postseason. They have them at a pretty low percent behind the Diamondbacks, the Phillies, the Mets, the Braves, obviously the Dodgers, the Cubs. But it's what they said about the Padres that a little concerning. You can look at projections and you can see, oh, the Padres have a 38% chance to make the postseason this year. That's all. That in itself doesn't look good. But when you see a summary of why their projections are so low, then you start thinking, that's not great. So here's what Fangraphs had to say.
I can't wait to hear this
About their projections for the Padres. It says, feels weird to see the Padres meaningfully behind the Diamondbacks. But in looking through these projections, I'm starting to feel the downside of AJ Preller's quantity for quality trading style. The bottom of this lineup is rough. We're talking worst left field situation in baseball rough. A catching tandem composed of guys better suited to being backups rough. Batting your DH ninth rough. Sure, the stars are bright, but the whole idea of stars and scrubs is that you can cobble together average players around the stars more easily. And San Diego absolutely hasn't done that. Okay. It also goes on to say, the rotation is a similar deal. The top three names, glitzy, marquee worthy. The next two, and the group after that, rough. Let's just say, if the top trio misses much time, this projection has meaningful downside risk. That's even before considering what happens if they trade Dylan Cease, as has been widely rumored. The Padres ended last cycle with the thinnest farm system in baseball, with just 3 prospects in the top 100, the fewest in baseball. That'll happen when you trade marginal prospects at every turn to avoid throwing in top names in your dealings. It has worked for the Padres for a while, but you can see the downside in this year's projections. So it kind of hits you in the face when you read projections and you see the number and then you hear the reasoning why the projections are there. It says, the fact that the Padres haven't done anything is the story. And I get it. It's nauseating, like, stop talking about this. They've done nothing. Why are we talking about them doing nothing? I get it. I understand that. But it also continues to be the top story with this Padres offseason, the fact that they have done nothing. And looking at ways to talk about this team is the difficult part. Taking you behind the curtain here, bro, the amount of content that this team has not given us this offseason is, it's we're earning our money here. We coming up with different topics every single day to talk about this team. It's rough, as the article says. It's rough.
Well, their hands are going to be forced pretty soon because spring training starts in like a week.
Yes, it will.
2 weeks for everybody else.
At some point, there will be a coming to Jesus moment of, it's either now or never, or are you going to really go into this season with what this team has right now? I guess you're going to the season with what this team has right now. So the rough part about it is sitting here constantly wondering when they're going to make a move. And I've said it. I'll continue to say it. I don't think that they're going to make a move before the start of spring training, which is in 1 week from now. 1 week, pitchers and catchers report. Super Bowl is on Sunday. We'll get to the Super Bowl later in the show today. But 1 week from today, pitchers and catchers are there. You're going to spring training. You have no left fielder. You have an entire roster that is very top heavy with a lot of holes. And you might say, well, Jim, you guys are being so rough on AJ Preller. Look, I've said I understand where AJ is coming from. I know that he can't make many moves. Hell, he can't make any moves. I understand that. I'm more rough on the organization as a whole. That's where I'm coming from with this whole thing. So you go into a season with all of these holes. You're asking for trouble. Plain and simple. You're just asking for it. You're running a risk. You're walking a tightrope. You are potentially going to be running into situations that I'm not going to say are avoidable, but you don't have a backup plan as of this moment. That's what's going to happen is if a player gets injured, what's your backup plan? Now, I'm not saying that they've not thought about that. Of course they have. If I'm talking about it, they've talked about it. They have backup plans, or at least they have perceived ideas of backup plans. They have ideas of an idea. They have ideas of plans. They've talked it through. Can they act on it? Can they act on those plans? This is a moment of your offseason where you're starting to see all of the, I guess, role players starting to get, some contracts and going to teams. And you're kind of sitting there looking around like, okay, that guy's going over here. That guy's going over here. That guy's going over here. And I'm not saying these guys are like world beaters and that they're going to completely change the Padres, but it'd be nice to see at least one role player come in. So you have a not only backup plan, but potentially that could be a guy that could, go in the starting lineup, go play left field, be your DH. So it's a process that AJ Preller is all too familiar with the last couple years. He, in February, has made a lot of moves. Before the season, he's made moves that have shocked us. But what continues to make me confused and wonder is the fact that when you look at the entirety of this roster, along with the minor leagues, to come up with a move that everybody is like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, yeah, I like that move. That's where you run into like a brick wall of, I don't like any of these moves because I don't want them to trade Dylan Cease at all.
For me, it's one of those things like, yeah, I think I've seen this movie a couple times already to where it's like, we'll just roll with what we got. And then once we get close to the playoffs, as soon as one person goes down, we're screwed.
Especially if one of those players is
starting rotation, which is what's happened. What, 2 out of the last 3 years? You
are bound to run into issues no matter what.
It's a long season.
It is an extremely long season, and there will be injuries. There will be, trades. There will everything. And what does this team look like when those things happen? When the going gets tough, how are they going to respond? Last year, Manny Machado did not start playing well until June. Well, guess who picked up the slack for him before then? Jurickson Profar. Fernando Tatis got injured. Who picked up the slack? David Peralta, Jackson Merrill. David Peralta was a guy that AJ Preller picked up. Can you find, David Peralta's still out there. Can you find a player like that and bring him in for nothing? And it gets me a little concerned that the guys that are being signed now, the role players, right? This is the role player week, I feel like. A lot of role player guys are signing. They aren't the pitchers that are signing for $15 million. That's, I can understand. Like, okay, they're not going $15 million. You don't have $5 million? You don't have $3.5 million? And look, maybe this is a case where AJ Preller's like, yeah, you know what? I don't like them all anyway, and I have other options and I have better stuff to do. And that's great. But until then, this is what they have. And a lot of projections and a lot of different outlooks are very concerned, as I'm sure you are all out there as well. All right, Bryce Miller, he's going to join us at 2:30 to talk about the Padres offseason. But coming up next, trade deadlines tomorrow in the NBA. And this trade deadline has been very, very interesting. The latest with the NBA trade deadline and Kevin Durant in particular. We'll talk about that coming up next. All right, back here on Jon and Jim. If you guys could do me a favor right now, however you're consuming this show, if you're watching us on YouTube, if you're listening to us on the radio, and especially if you're listening on the brand new iHeartRadio app, just go to the iHeartRadio app right now and put us in your presets. It is super easy. The only person on the planet that doesn't have this is Jon. Everybody else does. So when you open up the iHeartRadio app, you just search out San Diego Sports 760, put us in your presets, and then search out Jon and Jim, our podcast page. Put us in your presets as well. It is super easy. We'll be right on your front page when you open up the iHeartRadio app. So
that's what Jon really is.
Right.
We kicked him off the show until he actually updates his iHeartRadio app.
He's in Texas at corporate, figuring out what's going on. It's all I ask for my birthday. Just go out. Just put us in your presets. Pretty please for my birthday. Thank you. So the NBA trade deadline is tomorrow, and this has been the first NBA trade deadline in quite some time that has had this much buzz for the NBA, and I love it. I had a rant, I know, earlier this year when the Cavs and Thunder were playing on a random, I think, Wednesday mid-afternoon. And I was like, why do I care about this? I know it's the two best teams in the league, but it's just not drawing me to watch the game. But the Luka trade, along with the craziness that ensued after, and then now seemingly Kevin Durant about to be traded. I don't know, Brent. Like, I love drama, and this has sucked me in to want to consume more NBA content now because of the drama in the NBA. Do you feel the same, or does it not really connect with you?
There's at least something happening. You know, I was super happy this morning when I woke up and saw that the Bucks traded Chris Middleton.
Oh yeah, you got Kyle Kuzma. Congratulations.
You know, which, granted, he's not the best, but it seems like Chris Middleton hasn't played a game in 6 years. You know, he helped him win the championship, and then he's been hurt pretty much ever since. So I was happy to see that. That was kind of a funny coincidence because I was just kind of bitching to Sammy yesterday before the show about Middleton, about how he never plays. And then I wake up and he's not the Buck anymore. So it's better than them doing nothing. You know, we always complain about, like, in, you know, like baseball's off season, like with the Padres, it's just, sometimes it can just be so boring because nothing happens.
And like right now.
Yeah. And just like, you know, when the NFL trade deadline rolls around, it's like, there's no trades that happen. It's so boring. You know, there's trades, and, you know, we've had the rumors of, you know, where's crazy Jimmy Butler going to end up for like the last 2 weeks. You know, we'll find out tomorrow by what's the deadline, noon tomorrow, our time, I think.
Yeah.
If he's going to stay, you know, suspended or whatever for the Heat for the rest of the year, if they're actually going to trade him. So, you know, there's things to pay attention to.
And that's what I get drawn to is,
which is funny because it's almost more interesting than the games right now.
That's the thing is, but when the off the court stuff becomes super interesting, it draws in the fan to then watch the games. Like Saturday's game with the Lakers against the Pacers kind of feels like a must-watch game, even if you're not a Lakers fan. Because I want to see what Luka looks like in a Lakers uniform. I want to see what he looks like against, you know, not against, but with LeBron. Like, that intrigues me to watch. If KD gets traded, like, I want to watch where KD goes. Jimmy Butler gets traded, I want to watch that. I saw something today, and I agree with it. You know, back when KD was on the Warriors, they had a super team. And you look at the Cavs with Kyrie and LeBron and Kevin Love, that was considered a super team. The NBA, I'm not going to say needs super teams, but it definitely doesn't hurt to have some super teams out there. They haven't had those types of super teams with that much star power on one team in a while. Like, you do have stars, you do have, you know, older stars together. But as far as like young superstar super teams, like, I'm excited to watch the Spurs now with Wemby and Fox. Like, I think that could be very interesting. You got two all-stars. You have Wemby could be the face of the league here. Like, now, I mean, he's one of the best players in the league already. I just like the drama. I like all the moves. I like the action. And I hate to say it, it's better when the big boys are involved. It's better when, I don't like the Lakers, but it's better when the Lakers are involved. When the Warriors, like the Bucks with Giannis, like it's good. The Knicks, I know the Knicks they're not involved right now, but it's better when the big teams are involved. When you're talking about Cleveland and OKC and, Houston, like they're good. They're really good teams. I don't know. They just don't draw me in. And I don't think they draw in the casual fan as well.
They will eventually. You just have to give them a chance. A lot of people, they'll watch like a bad NBA game and then they'll go, that's what the entire NBA is like. It's like, no, it's like you watch,
they shoot too much threes.
You watch two bad
blah,
teams,
blah, blah, blah.
Play each other. So it's going to be a bad game. You watch two, good teams play each other, they'll put on a better game.
Right.
I think the NBA is almost shifting away from the super team thing now because, not Golden State, Cleveland, and I know OKC's got SGA, but they're kind of just going with one guy, one superstar, and then kind of just building around and going with like the team mentality, kind of like the Pistons did back in the Chauncey Billups, like Rip Hamilton days, when remember they took down that super team of was it Shaq and Kobe and Gary Payton and Karl Malone, I think was on that team, and
stars playing with stars, I think draws in the casual fan, and that is a good thing for the NBA. All right, coming up next, Bryce Miller of the UT is going to join us to talk about FanFest this past weekend, also his thoughts on the Padres' very quiet offseason. Bryce Miller coming up next on Jon and Jim.
This report is sponsored by eBay. The Lakers beat the Clippers last night, 122-97. They're led by LeBron, who had 26 points, 9 assists, and 8 boards. The Lakers' next game is tomorrow night against Golden State. In other NBA news, the Bucks and the Wizards made a trade this morning. The Bucks sending guard Chris Middleton to the Wizards for forward Kyle Kuzma. In NFL news, according to the NFL Players Association Executive Director Lloyd Howell III, quote, nobody wants to play an 18th game. No one, Howell said. 17 games is already, for many of the guys, too long. 17 games is also so lengthy, and you're dealing with injuries going into next season, said Lowell. So if you're counting on an 18th game, don't count on it. And remember, the Aztecs are back on the road this Saturday night when they take on Colorado State. Our pregame coverage starts at 6 o'clock. Uncle Teddy will have the tips shortly after 7, right here on your home for the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. We all got a thing. Yes, even you. If you love fashion, car parts, trading cards, whatever you're into, it's on eBay. So go find the thing that keeps you up at night. eBay, things people love.
All right, back here on Jon and Jim. It's great to be joined once again by Bryce Miller of the UT. Bryce, I saw your article over the weekend after FanFest. Now, I went to FanFest. I didn't walk around much, but it was still pretty packed. And for how quiet this offseason was, and with all the drama with the ownership and the loss of Jurickson Profar, what was your biggest takeaway from FanFest over the weekend?
Well, it was a little bit of both. Like, your point about it was pretty full, and it probably was. This is the first time they've done split sessions, because it was rained out last year. A couple of years ago, they just had everybody coming at once, and it really overwhelmed all the walkways and stadium access points, because it was a ton of people, and that was excitement of Xander Bogaerts had arrived, and Machado and Tatis and Bogaerts were on that Gallagher Square stage, and it felt like a rock concert in a lot of ways. But this time, splitting that up so logistics were better, half the people at once, roughly. So it was very busy. Tons of Padres gear, which is obvious. You're going to have that. But I also, the more I talk to people, some themes came up. There are real concerns among fans. Just the fact that the family dispute was a big one that I think almost everybody brought up to me, because they don't know what that means, and what does it mean for how long. And, it has that inhibited them, paralyzed them a little bit from making moves during this period without Peter Seidler, as they kind of wrestle over going to the court system, who is in control of this team. There's some of that fear among fans, and just the fact that they've lost more players in this offseason than they've gained by a wide margin. So, until AJ Preller does something to add on, which if you listen to him talk at FanFest, you got the sense that, he plans to, and because he pointed out that in past years, Dylan Cease was, right at the end of spring training when they got him. Luis Ariz was a month into the season. He doesn't operate by the normal off-season clock, but that mix of, we trust in AJ because of what he's done in recent years. There was still that, okay, we haven't done anything well. The Giants got better. The Diamondbacks got better. So I guess bottom line, it felt like fans were optimistic because they've seen through the last 3 years what that can look like. At the same time, there is concern about, the lack of any moves, the ownership tussle, that kind of thing. But I think there's a lot of wait and see with the fan base.
Bryce Miller of the UT join us here on Jon and Jim. Yeah, for me, Bryce, seeing the amount of fans there, and yes, there is concern. And in your article, you talked to fans expressing that concern, but these fans also said, you know what, I'm going to show up and support the faithful. Like, they're still going to get close to 3 million fans this year. They're going to have sellouts. They have, already sold out all their season tickets. Even with all this stuff going on, it just still feels like the fans, even though they see it and they are recognizing it, there's a part of them that, whatever, we're still going to go to the games. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, there's some of that for sure, but I don't know if it would seem like that if they didn't have some faith in the recent track record of AJ Preller.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of, the Padres haven't done anything of, real note yet other than Elias Diaz, which doesn't really knock your socks off. But there's that feeling, especially what they did last year late. Remember, they had the contract with Machado at spring training.
Right.
It's not unusual. He doesn't operate on the same timeline as a lot of general managers, and he's about as good as you get in terms of creativity trying to find those deals. You go back 2 years ago, and there was a track record, for Waka and Lugo, but what they did that year far exceeded what I think anybody thought they could do. They kind of revitalized their careers in San Diego. I think there's still a sense of, okay, it's AJ, something's coming. But at this point, it's been unusually quiet, and that does create some concern.
Yeah, and February is a month that historically he's made probably the most moves you could look at in his tenure, at least the last handful of years. A lot of moves being made in February leading up to the season. When we talk about all the inactivity that they've had this off season, and yes, it does. Preller is the guy that pulls the trigger on these moves. But how much do you really think it is Preller in this situation and not the ownership? Or do you feel like it's the ownership that is, I guess, in a sense, handcuffing Preller here? Because we both know, everybody knows, like, Preller doesn't sleep. He wants to make moves every single day. He is always thinking about how to improve this team. And that's why, like you said, it's eerily quiet for an AJ Preller offseason.
Yeah, and I think they were a little bit handcuffed, knowing that they were in, the group of finalists for Roki Sasaki, and that has a trickle down effect to young guys. They were, going to sign some oral commitments to players, and now that kind of floodgate is open with Sasaki going to the Dodgers, I think they were putting a lot of eggs in that basket because he's like a living, breathing lottery ticket. Incredibly affordable for what his ceiling is. Because he came over from Japan, Japan early. And just, to be able to control a guy like that for 6 years, that was priority one. And priority two was a long way down the road. But now I think he's accelerated what he's doing to find bargains in the market. He's been so creative and good in recent years of doing that. So that timing kind of coupled with, really they haven't done much. I think stuff is still coming, but you also look at the free agent board and you're like, okay, who is it? Who's a catcher that's available? They might be rolling with what they've got right now. How much would they be willing to spend for a left fielder, another starting pitcher? That's the reason I think the Dylan Cease trade makes the most sense. Yeah, they clearly don't have cash and capital to move on anyone with a sizable contract. At least they've given no indication that they would do that. But a guy like Dylan Cease has the ability to unlock a trade with a team that gets you multiple pieces. Plus, he's a Scott Boras guy, a year from free agency. The odds of them re-signing him to a new deal after that year, I think, are low. And if that's the case, then get what you can now. And it might come in the form of a trade more than anything they do on the free agent market.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Bryce, if you were AJ Preller and the directive, it's get that number below the CBT. Who are you going to offload? Like, do you think AJ Preller wants to trade Dylan Cease? Because I feel like if it were up to AJ, he's trying to, not only add to this roster, but keep as much intact as possible because they just came off a 93-win season. The goal should be, all right, what are we going to do coming off of a 93-win year with most of the core back? How can we get over that hump? But, being put in that situation, Bryce, Dylan Cease, I mean, like, don't you want to keep the guy or try to do everything to keep him to try to compete?
Yeah, on one hand, I understand that thinking, but if you're going to make this team better and they feel like they probably need to be better, what are the mechanisms available to do that? And really, without giving us any indication that they would pay a lot to a free agent, it just goes back to who's tradable and who's tradable in a way that could get you a lot, potentially.
Right. Yeah.
Who could solve multiple problems for you. And really, that's a Dylan Cease type guy. Of course, it would be painful to say you just traded a frontline pitcher, potentially your number one arm. Although more and more at the age and everything else, I think a lot of people think that could or is going to be Michael King. What can you do that fits within your resources to try to make a move that helps you in multiple positions? And really, I just don't see anybody out there that, the contract could be picked up other than Steve. So, yeah, it would be tough to lose a pitcher, but if you can fix two major problems for that, I'm just making that up.
Yeah.
You have to think about it because that's the tools you have. And there are tools that you don't. And Dylan Cease could help you in multiple ways.
Yeah, work with what you got. Bryce Miller joining us here on San Diego Sports 760. Final one, Bryce. I'm assuming that John Seidler will be voted in as the chairman or chairperson of this franchise either later this week or next week. But at spring training, if he is there, what's the one question you'd want to ask John Seidler if he ends up speaking to the media in Peoria?
For me, it would probably, off the top of my head, I'm not sure I'd know what the exact question would be, but I would try to think what you want to know is what are his motivations? What's he willing to say they're going to do? What's his commitment? On one hand, I think that you need to operate like the Dodgers don't exist. They're on another planet at this point.
Yeah.
You've got to get to the playoffs. So you got to be better than the Giants, better than the Diamondbacks. And how does he see that happening? How are you going to position yourself to be better than those two teams? As a priority to get in. They got in last year. They had an incredible second half run to get there, but it's all about getting into a playoff series and just let's go 5-7 games and see if we can beat you. On paper, the Dodgers would be favored in probably any series of any length. But so I think I just want to know his philosophy on how to approach that and how he thinks they could do it.
Do you know what John Seidler looks like? I feel like I ask everybody and they don't know. So do you know what he looks like?
No, I don't. I don't think I've seen anybody. I mean, I know Sheila Seidler and I've talked to her multiple times.
Of course.
I used to see Peter at the park a lot and talk to him. But that's part of why the question is concerning the fans. They're unknown quantities. I mean, one thing you were confident in is when Peter was in control, they were going to make the move. They were going to spend the money. When they got Machado at first, that really got the ball rolling on this new anything is possible. You were confident he wasn't going to look at the checkbook necessarily to get better and to make signings that reverberate, not just through your fan base, but through baseball. Are Matthew and John and the other side, his brothers, are they that committed in that way? I mean, I don't think we know. And that's the reason there's uncertainty is you don't know what their motivations are. And yeah, it's an onion you'd have to peel because the old line, yeah, we want to win a World Series for the city of San Diego. But do you want to win as badly as Peter did? Do you want to spend the type of money Peter did? Do you have the commitment to get it done and at multiple positions? We just don't know. And that's the thing. That's the mystery moving ahead.
No doubt. Bryce, thanks for joining me, man. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Yep. Thanks, Jim.
All right, Bryce Miller there of the UT. All right, coming up next, more Jon and Jim. Darnay Tripp joins us at 4 p.m. Stay with us right here on San Diego Sports 760. Thanks to Bryce Miller joining us. It's interesting what he has to say, hearing from the fan base and reading this article. If you haven't read it, I recommend it. Talking to fans at Fan Fest, without talking to anybody there, I said this on Monday. The vibe that I got was that kind of people, it feels like this isn't going to make them not go to games. Like the ownership issues and the lack of offseason moves isn't going to steer them away from Petco Park. They're still going to go to Petco. Fans are going to, fill that place up. Giveaway nights are going to be packed. It's something dramatic, and I mean dramatic, would need to happen for Padres fans to be like, yeah, I'm out. And by dramatic, I mean pulling a Dallas Mavericks where they like trade Jackson Merrill next season. That's the only thing that I can see where fans really put their foot down. But at this moment in time, while yes, the ownership issue is a massive problem. Yes, they're doing nothing this offseason. Yes, there's rumors galore of trading either Dylan Cease or Michael King. And with all that, there's still going to be close to 3 million people at Petco Park this year.
I don't think it's going to take more than that. Padres fans are in Cubs fans territory now, to where it doesn't really matter. They're going to fill Petco regardless of who's out there or what the record is, just because it's a good time, and they're just going to fill the stadium up, or the ballpark up.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would take something huge, like another work stoppage or something like that.
Well, even then,
then they would stop. But that's not even something that would be on the Padres. That'd be something that Major League Baseball as a whole would have to screw up to.
Yeah, when there was a work stoppage, I mean, yeah, obviously people didn't go to the games, but I feel like Padres fans are so enthusiastic, and it's the only thing we have in town. So it's Padres every day. And, they have superstar players in the team. They have good pieces. And with that, you're going to get a lot of the casuals to go to Petco to watch Manny Machado and Jackson Merrill and Fernando Tatis Jr. And guess what? All the diehards, they're still going to be there too. It's like that meme of a guy outside a window, and he said like sicko, and he's like, yes, watching potentially something that isn't great. Now, they could shock a lot of people. I mean, if you're Mike Schultz, they're going to win 115 games.
At least.
But, hearing from Bryce and reading what he wrote from fans talking about their concern with the ownership and the offseason, and it's all warranted, they're still going to go. Like someone today on social media, Brent, I was joking around because the Barrett Sports Media, he put out the top 20 major market afternoon drive time shows in the country. Unfortunately,
what number were we?
Jon and Jim didn't make the list. Jon and Jim didn't make the list. We almost made the honorable mentions. We were this close to making the honorable mentions list.
We were like the AP top 25. We got like 2 votes.
Yeah, we didn't even get mentioned, but somehow we were probably in a vote. It's just by only getting 1 vote, you don't mention those people. So anyway, I put something on Twitter. I was joking. Said, dang, almost made the honorable mentions list. Next year's our year. And somebody replied in the chat. Oh, what is this? Hold on. We're on the air. Everybody, wow, it's a birthday cake. Everybody, it's a birthday cake. Wow. It's a puppy. This is great. Yeah. Wow. Thank you, guys. Thank you. If you're listening on the radio.
Don't burn anything.
Yeah, I will not. Hold on. Ready? Make a wish. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. No, thank you. You're listening on the radio and like, what the hell just happened? Well, everybody out in the station newsroom.
The Kogo newsroom just emptied out. So
and my boss, they brought in a cake, a puppy cake for me. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see. There we go. There's the cake right there. So thanks, guys. That's really awesome. That's great. I totally forgot what I was saying. Anyway, that was cool. Coming up next, I don't even know. Lost my train of thought. We got a puppy cake here, and we're celebrating the birthday, and darn 8 trips at 4 p.m. Stay right here on Jon and Jim.
This report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air. The Aztecs are on the road Saturday night when they take on Colorado State. Our pregame coverage starts at 6 o'clock. Uncle Teddy will have the tip right after 7 right here in your home for the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. In NFL news, according to the NFL Players Association Executive Director, Lloyd Howell Jr., nobody wants to play an 18th game. No one, Howell said. 17 games is already for many of the guys too long, and it's so lengthy that you're still dealing with injuries going into the next season. So if you're holding your breath for 18 games next season, stop. Last night, the Lakers beat the Clippers 122-97. They were led by LeBron James, who had 26 points, 9 assists, 8 boards. The Lakers' next game is tomorrow night against Golden State. In other NBA news, the Bucks and the Wizards made a trade this morning, with the Bucks sending forward Chris Middleton to the Wizards for forward Kyle Kuzma. Waiting for your morning cup of coffee? Like a slow drain to clear, winter rains make roots grow in drain pipes. Call Anderson Plumbing Rooter Drain Services with their $63 drain stoppage guarantee. Say goodbye to slow drains. Book online, Anderson Plumbing Rooter Drain Services.
Getting you all set for that drive home. Let's just start the show. Now, it's time for Jon Jim.
All right, hour 2 on Jon and Jim. Got a puppy cake in here that we're definitely going to eat during the break, Brent. What flavor do you think this cake is? I'm going chocolate, of course.
Probably chocolate. Maybe marble.
My finger in it. Your mic's not on.
Yeah, no, it's like I really am you doing updates. Maybe it's marble. Maybe they could make up their mind.
Do you think, Mary made this, our boss?
No.
Anyway, puppy cake. Thank you. So today, I don't know if you saw this, Brent. Miles Byrd, he is one of 10 players in the country added to the Julius Erving Award watch list. This award recognizes the top small forwards in the country. Fans can start voting on this award starting on Friday, February 7th on hoophallawards.com. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
And it also tells you just how good of a season Miles Byrd has had for the Aztecs this year. Where would this team be without Miles Byrd? The growth that he has shown this year, he absolutely deserves to be on a list like this. By the way, 445 will be giving away Aztec tickets to the Aztec Boise State game next Saturday night. So stay listening for your chance to win during Trainwreck Radio if you want to be a contestant for that. So 445 Aztec tickets on the way.
And at some point this hour, we'll give away Simple Minds tickets.
We have a bunch of Simple Mind tickets to give away. Yes, you are absolutely right about that, Brent. A bunch of Simple Mind tickets to give away this hour, next hour, and the 5 o'clock hour. So stay tuned for that. But just getting back to the growth of Miles Byrd here and being on this list of players in the country for small forwards, the one thing that I automatically think about, because I'm a pessimist, is, oh man, it's gonna be tough to keep him. That's just what I think. I'm like,
how Ted Leitner of you.
Yes, like, oh man, it's gonna be tough to keep him. Either NIL money will be an issue. I'm not saying that it will be an issue for him. I'm just saying to give him what he deserves. Shoot, I've seen a lot of draft projections, Brent, putting Miles Byrd in the first round because of his size, because of his length. His 3-point shooting ability this year has, been probably one of the biggest growths of his game this year is his 3-point shooting. His defense is always going to be there. He has the NBA body. He's had multiple, oh my God, moments this season. And we're, only the beginning of February. So when you look at Miles Byrd, you love what he's doing right now for this Aztec team, and he is such an important piece of their ball club. Like, he, to me, if he has good games, the Aztecs are more likely going to win. If Miles Bird goes out there and shoots, 2 for 9 and, has 7 points and 2 rebounds and 1 assist, that's going to be a tough game for the Aztecs to win. But when he goes out there and, the second half performance that he had, not their last game against Wyoming, but their previous game here against Colorado State, was incredible. And his game against Air Force here when they were trailing and he hit big shot after big shot. He is, to me, the most valuable piece of their basketball team this year. If Miles Bird has good games, the Aztecs are going to do really well. That's why it was such a bummer this past year when, he wasn't fully healthy against Gonzaga. He didn't practice for the week. He did play, but he ended up having 0 points. He didn't look like himself. I mean, you take away that game, he's had, an incredible season. But he absolutely deserves to be on this list. Hopefully he wins it. I mean, look at these numbers this year, Brent. He's averaging almost 14 points a game, over 4 rebounds, 2 assists. When you look at his 3-point percentage this year, he's shooting 36.3% from 3. That's very respectable. At one point, he was shooting over 40% from 3.
Oh, I can't remember who said it a couple weeks ago. It might have been Mark Ziegler about they need either Bird or Boyd have to have a good game for the Aztecs in order for them to win pretty much every night. If it's not Bird, it has to be Boyd. If it's not Boyd, it has to be Bird. One of those two have to go off on any given night for them to have success. Otherwise, they've been struggling. Yes, Goon, he's been going off, but he's still young and he doesn't have the consistency. He can go for a couple games and then he'll kind of, not have the scoring output. He'll always have the rebounding and the blocks, but he just won't have the scoring. So yeah, they need Bird or Boyd to pretty much step up all year. But it's cool. It was what was Ledee up for last year? Was it the Karl Malone
power forward?
Forward. Yeah. So Dr. J was awesome. So it's cool that he's up for the the Dr. J award.
Yeah, it just shows that they have a lot of talent on this team. Still very young, but the talent on this team, you can see it, and you just see the growth in Miles' game day in and day out. It's really fun to watch. It really is. I remember going into this season, a lot of people were worried because it was a big turnover. You had so many new faces, a lot of young people, a lot of young players stepping into big time roles. One of them is Miles Bird. Nick Boyd transferring over. The only returning player that averaged close to double digits was Reese Waters. He hasn't played a second this season. You lose Lamont. Jaden goes to the NBA. And I was excited. I remember I was one of the people out there that said, no, this is the way that college basketball works. You should be excited about this. Yeah, it would be great to have the Final Four team for every year, but that's just not realistic. Nor do you want that, because you want new blood, you want new players. It's just the way college basketball works. And to me, I was very excited going into this season to see what BJ Davis was, to see what Farrell Compton could do, what Taj DeGorville could do, what Magoon Gwath could do, right? Especially Miles Bird, his growth this season. And are they a finished product? No. Are they a Final Four team? I don't know. They're very young. They only beat Wyoming by 2. They beat San Jose State by 3 the other night. They had a little trouble with Nevada until they pulled away. Air Force on the road. Wayne McKinney had to have the miracle shot at the end to avoid that disaster loss. They've lost at home to UNLV. They lost on the road to New Mexico. They lost that heartbreaker against Utah State. They have things they have to work on. They're not blowing teams out, and that's fine. Now, I see Joe Lunardi. Oh, he's they're one of the last 4 in. Okay, Well, nobody on the last 4 in list has the wins on their resume against Houston and Creighton. Houston's ranked number 6 in the country. And I'm looking at their games here. Houston's blowing out teams. Houston barely beat UC, and then you look at this. Houston beat Utah 70-36 the other night. All right, they went to Kansas and won in double overtime. They went to West Virginia, beat West Virginia by double digits. They beat BYU by 30 points.
Yeah, but what's going to hurt the Aztecs is they're not beating the teams that are considered lower level to them by what they think they should be beating them by.
That's such a stupid thing. I hate that.
Yeah, don't get all Forrest Gump as stupid does. There's nothing you can do about it.
A win's a win.
Yeah, but not in their eyes. With all the metrics, you only beat a team by 3 points, but you're favored by 20, then you're going to take a hit for that. And that's kind of been their thing this year, is they've been struggling against some teams when they, according to the point spread, should be winning by, double figures, and they're taking a hit for it. So I think if they get a game or two where, say they're favored by 8 points and they just blow them out and they win by like 20, 25, I think that would help a lot with their metrics. But yeah, it sucks, but it's like you said, that's the way of college basketball right now.
I just did something that I've never done before. Can you guess?
Show prep?
No, I actually have had to show prep this week without John. I show prep when John is here. It's just easy to write down a one word as far as a topic goes, and then me and John can just go off that. But what I did that I've never done before is I've typed in kenpom.com on my computer.
John just has to type in the K and it instantly goes there.
I know. And I'm looking at the Aztecs, and they are 46th in KenPom. All right. They are 9th in the country in defensive rating. Now, offensive rating, great, 129th, but we're going to look past that. How is this team the last 4 in? I don't know. I just...
it's like that one guy said.
Sometimes KenPom's full.
Yeah, sometimes KenPom is absolutely full of it. I consider this team to absolutely be a tournament team unless they fall on their face here in the next couple months. The remaining schedule is Colorado State this Saturday, followed by San Jose State on the road. Gave them a very tough test. San Jose State did recently here at Viejas Arena. You get through those 2 games, then you have Boise State, Fresno State at home, on the road against Utah State. Hopefully they can, that is the game to watch if they can get through and navigate their next 4 games through Colorado State on the road. It's not going to be easy this Saturday. Then San Jose State and Boise State. Those are 3 tough games coming up here for the Aztecs.
More elevation games.
You get through those 3. You have Fresno State at home. Fresno State's awful this year. And then you take on Utah State on the 22nd in Utah. And that could be a game where if they navigate this, if they go 3-1 in the next 4 games, which, would you take it 3-1 in the next 4?
Yes.
I think I would. Now,
as long as the one
isn't Fresno State.
Yeah. Isn't one of those games where, like I was just talking about, where we're favored by 16 and then, we lose by 5 or whatever, that would be a disaster. So yeah, as long as the one win is against we need John for our quads, but as long as it's a positive quad.
Right. I don't know my quads. John's not here.
I don't either.
I'm assuming Colorado State is not bad. It's a quad 2.
I figure they're
maybe?
middle quad, maybe 3. I don't know.
Boise State, Fresno State's going to be awful. San Jose State, but let's just say you get 3-1. You get to Utah State. You take out Utah State. Little payback for what they did to you here at Viejas, and you get through that. You take New Mexico on at home again, another payback game potentially, and then we get to March, where Wyoming, UNLV, and Nevada, not the toughest of schedules, but you did lose to UNLV at home here. If I were to say of the remaining,
Chat says they're quad 3.
Okay. So of their remaining 9 games, wait, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
That's about 8 or 9.
Yeah, the remaining 9 games. You go 7-2. I
think that'll be enough.
I think that should be enough.
I think 7-2 and a decent showing in the Mountain West tournament.
7-2 is probably not going to win you the Mountain West Conference regular season.
No, but I think it'll be good enough that, like I said, as long as they don't go and get bounced like in the first
just don't
round
have any
of the Mountain West tournament, right. I think that'll be enough.
Don't have any bad losses on your resume. If you're going to lose to a team that is either quad 2 or hell quad 1. I don't know how many quad 1s are left on their schedule, but you navigate through that. I don't know how Joe Lunardi would put them as one of the first or one of the last 4 in. It just wouldn't make sense to me. But that's why I'm not a bracketologist, and John's not here to tell me that I'm an idiot. So with that, that's our bracketology talk of the day. You're welcome, John. All right, coming up later this hour, Simple Mind tickets, so stay tuned for that. Darnay Tripp's going to join us at 4 p.m. We also have the wrap for you as well, and Aztec tickets to give away in the 4 o'clock hour. Stay with us right here on Jon and Jim. San Diego Sports 760 has 13 chances to win $1,000 every weekday with the Grand in Your Hand cash contest. That's every hour, 6 a.m. through 6 p.m. Listen for the keyword at the top of every hour and enter it at sportssd.com. So we've been talking a lot about projections this week. And again, they're just projections. I get that. And they you can say a team has a 100% chance of making a postseason, and then all their players get injured and they miss the postseason, and then that projection looks stupid.
Things change.
Absolutely, things change. Fangraphs did put out 2025 projections for individual players. And one of the projections they had was for Fernando Tatis Jr. They project Tatis this year, to listen to this, have 38 home runs, 101 RBI, an 873 OPS with a 5.7 WAR. Yeah, sign me up like yesterday. If you got that season from Fernando Tatis Jr. and nothing else crazy happened, Machado didn't get injured, Merrill might have a dip, like a little bit of a slide, but it's not something crazy like a Corbin Carroll last year where you were like, is this guy okay? Pitching staff largely remains healthy-ish. Cease and King put together similar seasons like they did last year. They gave you, almost 370 innings total. Yu Darvish doesn't miss any time, right? There's maybe dips otherwhere, like maybe Jake Cronenworth, continues to slide and he doesn't, have a season like he did back in 2021, and he kind of gets, worse and worse, like his projections and his seasons have gone over the last 3 years. Maybe Luis Ariz, it's kind of weird to say, maybe he doesn't hit 316. Maybe it's 292.
What a loser,
right? Maybe they don't get the production out of left field that they would want to get, which is not an all-star level, but looking for something. All right, maybe they have a couple other hiccups here and there and whatever, but if Tatis puts together that type of year, that's an all-star year, like a legitimate all-star year. I know he was voted in last year as an all-star, but he was also injured. That is, unless Ohtani goes for 50-50 again, like that's a borderline all-star, borderline, MVP-ish type of year if the Padres do well. And they're going to need that. They are absolutely going to need that. Looking at things that they absolutely need to have this year from certain players, they absolutely need that type of season from Fernando Tatis Jr. If they don't get that and they continue to get a guy that is injured and is not going to give you 30 plus home runs and not play 150 plus games for you, and question marks about his health constantly, then that is going to be a problem. You just lost 26 home runs and an 800 plus OPS in left field, an all-star. How are you going to replace that? If you're not going to replace it with a player put into that position to replace Jurickson Profar, then you're going to need production from other people in the team to help out. If Tatis has 38 home runs next year, and let's say the combined home runs and production from whoever the hell's in left field is, let's just say, 12 home runs or 13 home runs combined for the season. Not great, probably kind of low, but just hear me out. Well, then Tatis will have picked up the slack from what you lost with Profar last year. And you have to combine all of the players' productions together.
It's a money ball.
Exactly. So you will need a Tatis season like that. 38 home runs, 100 RBI, an OPS that is almost at 900. Before this guy got injured and suspended, well, he was injured, but before he got suspended,
You could count on Fernando Tatis Jr. giving you a 900 plus OPS every year. Like every year, boom, OPS over 900. Now, if you get something close to that, that's amazing. And hopefully he takes his September that he had last year, which he got scorching hot, and then his October that he had last year, where he was the hottest player in baseball until games 4 and 5 of the NLDS. And you can parlay that into a really good season. They're going to need that. I know the phrase of like, well, he had a hot September, so he can just carry. I know it doesn't. I get it. New seasons are new seasons. If players have good Septembers, that doesn't automatically mean they're going to have good seasons the following year. But Tatis can. And the biggest thing here too is that he's healthy. That is the number one thing with Toddy. He stays healthy. He has a really good chance to put up these types of numbers.
Well, it's like we said, it's the Moneyball thing. We don't necessarily have to replace, Higgy and Jurickson. We just have to, through a combination of other players, just make up for the production that they had. So, we don't need, what's the potential new left fielder?
Tirso Ornelas?
Yeah. We don't need him to come out and, duplicate what Jurickson did last season. He can come out and do less than that if Tatis is going to have a season like they projected, because it's going to pick up the slack from, the production that they're missing. Like I said, that was like the whole point of Moneyball is, we don't have to replace this guy. We just have to, was the phrase, we just have to replace the aggregate. And that's pretty much what they're going to have to do here.
Exactly. It's replacing what you lost with Profar around the diamond with players having better years. Another player, Xander Bogaerts, if he puts up close to his averages, that's another player that can replace what you lost with Profar.
You just take like one or two, take like him and maybe like Cronenworth, one of the guys that underperformed last season. If they just have a slightly better year than they did last year, then that's going to help.
Exactly. All right, coming up later this hour, LeBron speaks. We'll hear from LeBron coming up next. Darnay joins us at 4 p.m. Stay with us on Jon and Jim.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. The Lakers beat the Clippers last night, 122-97. They were led by LeBron James, who had 26 points, 9 assists, and 8 boards. The Lakers' next game is tomorrow night against Golden State. In other NBA news, the Bucks and the Wizards made a trade this morning. The Bucks sending Chris Middleton to the Wizards for Kyle Kuzma. And remember, the Aztecs are on the road this Saturday night when they take on Colorado State. Our pregame coverage begins at 6 o'clock. Uncle Teddy will have the tip slightly after 7, right here on your home for the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. Your local Staples has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store on everything for your business. And right now at Staples, save up to $250 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends April 5th. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program at Staples.
So the expected debut of Luka on the Lakers is expected to happen this Saturday against the Pacers. And ESPN has already announced that they're bumping the Suns Jazz game. Suns Jazz was supposed to be on ESPN. They said, nah, we nope, sorry. And now Lakers Pacers will be nationally televised on Saturday afternoon. I know I'll be watching. The Lakers right now, by the way, Brent, they look really good. Really good. They're sitting at, let me just double check here, because last time I checked, they were 5th.
I think they still are around there.
In the Western Conference. Right now, yep, they're still 5th. They're 29-19, 10 games over 500. And you look at the rest of the league, the rest of the conference, after them, it's a bunch of mid. The Clippers, who they blew out last night, are 28-22. And then after that, you got Minnesota in the 7th spot, 27-23. Sacramento's 25-24. Phoenix is 25-24. And the Warriors are 25-24. And the Dallas Mavericks, who everybody thinks are the best team in the league, now with Anthony Davis on it, they're out of the postseason. If the postseason started today, the Dallas Mavericks would not be in the postseason. They're 26-25. 1 game over. They just lost the other night. Anthony Davis hasn't played yet with them. There's not like 70 games or 60 games remaining in your schedule. When you're halfway through the year. The Mavericks would need to rip off like 10 of 12, 13 of 15
to really
put them in that upper echelon of the Western Conference. But I'm just looking at it from an unbiased perspective, taking away my hatred of the Lakers. I don't know, Brent. This could work like right away.
It's going to be, the main thing is going to be the same thing that it was when AD was here. They have to stay healthy because, Luka gets hurt a lot too, just like AD does. And, LeBron's, not exactly 23 anymore either. So it's a lot like what we were talking about with the Padres. They can't really afford to have any of those guys go down. If Luka goes down or LeBron goes down for like any extended amount of time, they're screwed. Because, Austin Reeves is good, but he's not good enough to carry the team by himself. So I think if they stay healthy, I wouldn't say they're title contenders, but I think they could win maybe a round or two, maybe make it to like the conference semifinals, maybe depending on what matchup they would get, but it all depends on their health.
Here was LeBron James last night. This is his first public comments after the trade on this past Saturday. Here's LeBron after last night's game on the Luka and AD trade from over the weekend.
Something I haven't seen before, obviously, but it was shocking when I heard the news. But at the end of the day, I understand the business of basketball. But I didn't make the decision, so. But it was just, shocking in the sense of who was involved, obviously. With Luka and AD. I don't know. I don't have much words for it.
So he's like everybody else. He's just speechless.
Didn't he sound almost sad?
I think everybody is like a little sad-ish because when you don't expect something, it takes you a while to process it. Like if you prepare for something, it might take, you might feel bad about it for a couple of days, but you get over it pretty quickly because you had time to prepare. Nobody had time to prepare. And in LeBron's mind, I'm not saying he has to change his game. They're going to figure it out. They're two of the smartest players in the league. LeBron is arguably the smartest player ever to play the game. They're going to figure it out. But still, there's going to be a little bit of a growing process there between Luka and LeBron. It's not going to just be magic right away where they're both putting up, triple doubles. They're going to have to figure each other out because they have never played together before. And you have two ball dominant guys on the same team. You're going to need a little bit of time.
I just thought it was funny. It was like, yesterday at Luka's presser, he was like all chipper and optimistic. And then LeBron's just
something I haven't seen before, obviously, but it was shocking when I heard the news. But at the end of the day, I understand the business of basketball. But I didn't make the decision, so.
I make decisions.
The way he sounds, you would think that they traded AD for to bring Kyle Kuzma, or not Kyle Kuzma back, or him or Caruso or somebody like that. Or it's like, we traded away one of our superstars for nothing. It's just like, dude, you got another superstar back.
I think LeBron knows how good Luka is. He knows that Luka is a better player than Anthony Davis is. Does this take their ceiling this year above what they could have had if they had a healthy Anthony Davis? I don't know. But what I do know nobody's going to want to face those two in a postseason series. Nobody. You think the Thunder would be excited to see Luka, who has torched their team historically throughout his entire career, and LeBron at the way he's playing right now? You think who else is at the top of the conference? You think the Nuggets? You think the Rockets, a very young team? You think Memphis is going to be happy to see a Luka and LeBron-led Lakers team? No. So I am very curious, as I'm sure a lot of basketball fans are, to see just exactly how this looks. And I think it could work. I really do. I think that they now have enough time and they're in a really good position in the West where they don't have to immediately flip that switch like the Mavericks need to. They are in a good position. Even if they don't play well together for the first couple weeks, that's not going to have such a negative impact where all of a sudden they're outside looking in for a postseason spot. I think that they are in a spot where they have a little bit of cushion, not a lot, tiny bit, which will give them enough time to figure each other out. And then by the time they figure each other out, I don't think anybody's going to want to see those two in a postseason series. That's just me.
The scary thing for me would be, everyone knows that, LeBron, he's a driver and a penetrator. He's not necessarily, his 3-point shooting's improved this year, compared to his other seasons, but he's mostly, he's going to drive to the basket, use his, his muscle and everything and just get to the hoop. Can you imagine him driving to the basket and then when they have to collapse on him, just kick it out to Luka for wide open threes?
Not only that, you kick out to Luka,
which he won't miss those most of the time.
It's you kick out to Luka, and now if you close out on him, he can do
open.
He can literally do anything. He's not just a 3-point shooter. He is a creator and one of the best in the game. And oh, by the way, imagine pick and rolls with him and LeBron.
That's all I would do.
Freaking luck, dude. Good freaking luck. Because if you blitz Luka, you leave LeBron wide open, and he's going to get the ball to LeBron. You can double Luka all you want. He will find a passing lane. Same thing with LeBron. LeBron has the ball, and Luka generates a pick and roll with LeBron. It's the same thing I felt when it was prime KD with prime Steph on the Warriors. Good freaking luck covering that pick and roll with Steph and KD in their prime. Unfortunately, Steve Kerr was too, boneheaded to run pick and rolls a lot until they absolutely had to do it. But just thinking about a postseason series where it's going to come down, it would eventually just be pick and rolls with LeBron and Luka. Because, at the end of the day, you put the ball in your best player's hands, you let them go to work. In this case, you put the ball in your best player's hands. Oh, by the way, the other guy that might be better than the guy with the ball in his hands is over here, and you have to be worried about him. It has the potential to really work out, especially with how the Lakers are playing right now. Yes, they do need size. Yes, they probably need a rim protector, but I think it's going to work. I think that, unfortunately, if you're a Lakers fan, I think that this team could make some noise. I really do. And I kind of want to see them do it, even though I'm not a Lakers fan, just because I want to see it blow up in the Mavericks' face. Is that wrong of me to think that?
No.
To want to see Luka succeed and this just completely backfire on the Mavericks? Kind of want to see that. More chaos. Give me more chaos, the better. Yeah, James in the chat. Jim's getting excited for Luka and LeBron. I am. It's a weird feeling because I don't like the Lakers. I'm not a Lakers fan. I'm a Warriors fan. But I do want to see good basketball, and I mostly am rooting for this, not for the Lakers' success, but for the downfall of the Mavericks. That's why I'm rooting for this. That is my that's the devil part of me, is rooting for other people to fail instead of just rooting for them to succeed on their own. Coming up next, Darnay Tripp will join us at 4 p.m. We'll get to the wrap as well. More Jon and Jim coming up next.
right, coming up later this segment, make sure you are paying attention. We are giving away a pair of tickets to see Simple Minds with Soft Cell and Modern English on Saturday, May 24th at the North Island Credit Union Amphitheater. We'll be giving away Simple Mind tickets in this segment. So make sure you are listening for your chance to win. Not right now. Don't call right now. But we will give away tickets to see Simple Minds in this segment. So continue to listen for that. Also, I was just informed, if you can't watch the Lakers on Saturday and tomorrow night, but mostly Saturday because that's when Luka will debut for the Lakers, you can listen right here on San Diego Sports 760. So we carry Lakers basketball here. We will continue to carry Lakers basketball this season, and you will be able to hear Luka's first game on Saturday against the Pacers. So make sure you stay tuned for that. So we are midweek on a Wednesday of Super Bowl week, and I'm hard pressed to find an actual topic that I guess resonates with the Super Bowl. You know, Radio Row's going on right now. And Radio Row, you know, it's one of those weird weeks where it's great that you're there. Oh, Radio Row, look at this player. And then you talk to those players or you talk to those people and all they're doing is promoting stuff. And you're like, okay, it's just one giant sales pitch endorsement, live read for XYZ that they're endorsing.
Oh yeah, I always remembered. Was it Bill Romanowski would always be there, like pushing some protein powder or something, and
protein shakes or some type of protein bar, and you know you get all these like, hey, I'm pushing the new line of like what is it? Shirts or toothpaste or whatever.
I think it's weird this year because normally the NFL, and they're really good at this, of even if there's nothing going on, they do a good job of making it seem like, oh no, what are you talking about? This is the most happening, place to be is right here, on Radio Row. And in past years, there's been a lot of nothing burgers that have happened, but they treat it like it was the biggest nothing burger ever. And you have to see what Patrick Mahomes said to the media. And, with the exception of, I thought it was funny that one guy that was going around pretty much, he asked like Travis Kelce, he's like, who do you love more? Taylor Swift or when the refs give you phantom 15-yard pass interference penalties? And he just goes, next. Yeah. And like they asked the same thing to, Mahomes and stuff like that, to where if they weren't pretty much bashing the umps, I think they would have made a bigger deal out of that. Oh, look at this funny thing. Like when that idiot asked Mahomes to do a Kermit the Frog impression last year, which was dumb, but guess what? The NFL pushed the hell out of that and it was all over social media.
So do you think the NFL should go away from the 2 weeks off before the Super Bowl?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't really see the purpose for it, unless it's just they think that, give us an extra week to hype up the game. But what did they do to hype up the game in that week? Nothing. They played stupid flag football and had a skills challenge that nobody watched or cared about.
Now, they don't necessarily need to hype up anything. They have the luxury of pretty much they don't have to say anything, and 120 million people will still watch the Super Bowl on Sunday.
Well, yeah, but you still got to hype it up. Yeah, you could have the two best fighters in the world, and just them fighting and being in the ring together would be enough to sell the fight. But you're still going to go out there and tell everyone how great of a fight it's going to be just to get the people that are on the fence.
And you obviously have this Super Bowl hyped up for sure. I mean, it's everywhere. But again, they don't. I don't feel like they even if they decided 1 year, which won't happen. Just say they decided 1 year, they weren't going to talk about the Super Bowl at all for a week on ESPN or FS1. Still, you get 100 million plus watch the Super Bowl come Sunday. I'm more or less thinking about the interesting angles with this Super Bowl
And the most interesting angle is the three-peat.
Yeah.
It's the three-peat. Pat Riley has that trademark. Did you see that Pat Riley?
Yeah, because they had to get his permission to make T-shirts.
Gave permission. I think if
that was nice of Riles.
If I was the Chiefs, I wouldn't want to know that story for the Super Bowl. You know, I'm obviously very superstitious, and so
yeah, but you have to be ready.
Yeah, but you don't have to announce it, even though you have to get this thing done. I get it. Like, you know, you have social media teams making graphics for if you win the Super Bowl and if you lose the Super Bowl. I get that, but I don't know.
I don't even know if it's so much that they announced it as when you file for these things. It's like when you file for a patent, it's like public record. So I think once they had to get Riles' permission to use three-peat, I think it just leaked. I don't think they necessarily released it about, hey, pre-order your three-peat shirts 2 weeks before the Super Bowl. I think it was just a public record thing and it just leaked.
Mm-hmm. I'm obviously excited for the Super Bowl. I'm in a weird position where I'm not like, if Aaron wasn't in the picture, I wouldn't really care for either team. I want the Eagles to win for her, but you know, if your team is in it, like last year, it was more of a nervousness and just anxiety filled lead up more than excitement. It wasn't exciting to me. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, but I was nervous, and I'm sure Eagles fans are nervous. Like Aaron doesn't even want to talk about it. I mentioned the Super Bowl to her at home, and she's like, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. That's how it's gotten with so much time in between the championship games and the Super Bowl. You're just sitting there in your own thoughts for 2 weeks if you're a fan of the Eagles or the Chiefs. And it's almost like, all right, I don't want to think about the game until Sunday comes because I'm already going to be burned out. And when you look at Super Bowl Radio Row Week, that's where you're supposed to generate some type of, you know, interesting angles. And with this year's game, I guess the most interesting angle is, can the Chiefs three-peat? And that's what I'm going with. You know, the Barkley angle with the Eagles. Okay, yeah, that's great. Sticking it to the Giants one more time. Other than that, both these teams, like we talked to Will Brinson yesterday, and he nailed it on the head. The quietness around this game largely has to do with the fact that this is a rematch from 2 years ago, and it's pretty much the same teams with just a couple new players, Saquon being the biggest, but largely it's the two same teams in the Super Bowl. And instead of having a Super Bowl where it potentially could have been the Lions and the Bills, two teams that have never won before, Lions making their first Super Bowl appearance, Bills looking to win their first Super Bowl in franchise history after their 4 straight losses back in the 90s. That would really like grab people, because it's a rematch and it's, you know, Mahomes again. That's where you're like, okay, can we just get to the game? Get to the game. Let's go.
I said the other day, I just think it kills the momentum when you just have that week in between. It's kind of like, you know, we don't have to worry about it now because it's a college football playoff, but it was like how it used to be when, you know, the Trojans or somebody would play their final game and then they'd have to wait like a month to almost a month and a half before they'd play in the Rose Bowl or play their bowl game. And it's just like, why are we waiting this long? And it just feels like it kills the momentum. You know, we were riding high from the conference championship games and everything. And then it's like, we just sit on it for an extra week for no reason, pretty much because they didn't want to overshadow the stupid, I don't even want to call it the Pro Bowl, flag football.
I didn't even realize that was going on Sunday.
I realized it yesterday morning.
Yesterday morning? It took you that long?
Yeah. So almost a full day after it happened, I was like, oh yeah, the stupid flag football thing was yesterday.
All right, coming up next, our best friend, Darnay Tripp. He'll join the show. Stay with us on Jon and Jim.
This report is sponsored by the West Automotive Group. The Lakers beat the Clippers last night, 122-97. They were led by LeBron James, who had 26 points, 9 assists, and 8 boards. The Lakers' next game is tomorrow night against Golden State. You can hear that game right here on San Diego Sports 760. In other NBA news, the Bucks and the Wizards made a trade this morning, with the Bucks sending Chris Middleton to the Wizards for Kyle Kuzma. And NFL news, according to the NFL Players Association director Lloyd Howell Jr., nobody wants to play an 18th game. No one, Howell said. 17 games is already enough for many of the guys, too long, and 17 games is also so lengthy you're still dealing with injuries going into next season. Remember, the Aztecs are on the road this Saturday night when they take on Colorado State. Our pregame coverage starts right here at 6 o'clock, and Uncle Teddy will have the tip slightly after 7. If you're experiencing transmission issues, contact West Automotive Group to get your car back in top shape. Repairs, maintenance, oil changes, and more. Done by ASAE certified technicians. Find the location closest to you and book today at westautomotivegroup.com.
Getting you all set for that drive home. Let's just start the show. Now it's time for Jon Jim.
All right, hour 3 of Jon and Jim on a Wednesday. Coming up later this segment, I will give away those Simple Mind tickets. I promise you, I will give away the Simple Mind tickets coming up in this segment. So stay tuned for that. We have the wrap to get to later this hour. Also, Aztec tickets we're going to give away during Train Wreck Radio. But our best friend, Darnay Tripp, joins us here on Jon and Jim. Did you have a reminder set in your phone to be prepared for a text from me this week to join the show?
No, I forgot about that.
Oh.
It's funny that you say best friend. I think it's been like a month or two since you guys have had me on, but I'm glad to know I still have a place in your heart.
You do.
Especially
I don't know about
mostly when John's gone and you don't want to fill 4 hours every day by yourself, but I'll take it nonetheless.
Shh, be quiet. You're not supposed to say that. That's behind the scenes stuff. No, but thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. All right, let's start with the Padres, Darnay, where we usually always start. Fan Fest this past weekend. I didn't see you there. What were you doing?
What was I doing? I was actually in LA this past weekend, so I was out of town, and I typically end up missing Fan Fest. I probably shouldn't say that too loud. Derek Togerson does a great job covering that for us on the weekends. I tried to get caught up, watching interviews on YouTube and that sort of thing, and just seeing what the guys had to say, especially after an all season where there was a lot of intrigue, most of it not all that encouraging. But always want to do my best to kind of have the pulse of the team, especially with spring training coming up and getting a sense of what the vibes might be once they get together in Peoria.
So what was your biggest takeaway from Fan Fest and everybody that spoke?
I mean, shocking that Mike Schilt's team would mostly kind of err on the positive, optimistic side of things. And I do think there is merit to that, and I think there's been more discussion of that, more acknowledgement of that in recent weeks. Hey, the cupboard isn't exactly bare. And if Machado has a Machado type season, if Tatis is continuing the kind of path he's on to, reaching the height of his powers again, if Jackson Merrill avoids any sort of sophomore slump, you've got some guys in the rotation that can deliver really good seasons, consistent performances, every 5 days or what have you. They're going to be in the mix. And then it's just a matter of, like AJ Preller said, couple bats, couple arms, whatever that means, him being vague as he generally is. And you can't typically glean too much from what he has to say. But I think it's fair to say, look, there's been some discouraging aspects to it. It's tough to see guys like Profar go. I did kind of love Manny Machado throwing out the line about Roki Sasaki. Hey, I kind of got the sense that that's where he was going anyways. Because why not? The Dodgers have certainly said things about Manny Machado that may or may not have merit. So might as well just throw it out there. And so I think we got to just see what AJ Preller does and hope that the guys on this team play to their potential. We had John Morosi on Fryer a couple weeks ago, and he said something along the lines of the aircraft carriers need to be aircraft carriers. And that's certainly the case with Tatis and Machado. But I think, even more so with Xander Bogaerts, like at some point, if he can start to earn that money year in and year out, then you can deal with the departure of a Jurickson Profar and a Kyle Higashioka. If Xander Bogaerts starts to look like himself, then I think that changes the calculus a bit with this team.
Yeah, Mike Schilt can. Did you hear Mike Schilt rip off every single name on the team and say how great every single one of his players were? Did you hear that?
Maybe at some point, Mike Schilt, like somebody was talking about a team he was on or a staff he was on, and maybe they forgot to mention him, and he felt some disappointment about that and knows what it's like to be left out and not be acknowledged. And so classic Mike Schilt fashion, he doesn't want to leave anybody acknowledged, down to Stephen Kolek. He wants to make sure everybody gets their flowers, and I'm sure the guys appreciate that about Mike Schilt.
Yeah, no, I was thoroughly impressed that he could do that in one breath. It was pretty impressive, to be honest with you. Manny, yeah, he said a lot of things that to me I was most interested in hearing from. The one line I took away was him saying, "Are we disappointed with that we haven't made any moves in the offseason?" Yeah, we are. That to me it's like a direct shot at the front office. Like, hey guys, the clubhouse and the players think that we have something here. You guys need to give us something to help us put us over the top. How significant do you think those words are for Manny? I think they're pretty significant.
Well, and Manny, like, how many times have we seen around the trade deadline or heard Manny say, well, I'm not the GM, I'm not the one making the decisions. I'm glad I'm not the one making the decisions.
Right.
I also think, we understand that, Manny's pretty calculated, and he doesn't typically say anything he doesn't mean. And often when he gives you a little bit extra of something, like, there's a reason for it. But I do, like, even going back to this time last year, they didn't have Jurickson Profar. They didn't obviously have Dylan Cease and Luis Ariz. They didn't have Donovan Solano or David Peralta. Now that puts pressure on AJ Preller to basically like throw a perfect game, which he did last year. And he's doing that with less prospect capital, and he's doing that having to continue to trim payroll. So it doesn't get any easier. We've seen him do it, but it seems like he's up against it a little bit more than in years past. But there's been at least other examples of, Luke Voigt didn't have the best season, but he was a guy that, made an impact. Sean Manaea, was it Taylor Rogers? Wasn't that an opening day deal?
Like right before.
So many instances in the past when AJ Preller has, up to the 11th hour and really even beyond, made deals that shape and round out the roster. And it's really interesting now to see what he can do when there appears to be less money and less resources to do that with.
Give me the percentage chance you think that Dylan Cease and Michael King make it to the opening day roster.
Well, it's funny. I mean, it's a really interesting question now coming off of what I just said, because you can imagine a situation where Dylan Cease is traded in, I don't know, like mid-April, early May. Now, I will say, like, I remember last year at the deadline thinking, well, they probably couldn't get Luis Ariz now. They probably couldn't get Dylan Cease now. And so, it's probably a hold until the season and wait. And if you do that, wait until the trade deadline when teams get especially desperate. I would say, to answer your question, I think Michael King will be around. I'd say Dylan Cease, I'm not super optimistic. I might go 30 or 40%. I just think that that's maybe the most logical, if for no other reason than the price of his current deal and the cost of his future deal, the guy that is probably easiest to move and to get some sort of return from. I think in terms of like most replaceable, they've done pretty well in the past with cost-effective closers. Now they might not be at peak Josh Hader and peak Robert Suarez, like his level. But I wouldn't be surprised to see them go that way, because if you look at like Kirby Yates, Mark Melancon, Rogers, Trevor Rosenthal, like they got guys more or less on the cheap that were effective, in some cases all-stars. And so that's another area where I could see them making a deal, but Cease just seems to make a whole lot of sense. So having both King and Cease, I would be a bit surprised if that were the case by opening day.
You know, I was thinking we have not had you on the show since the ownership issues dropped. I don't think we have. So we haven't talked to you about everything that's gone on with Shield and the Seidler bros. How much do you really think this is affecting everything going on with this team right now? And do you think down the line it would be best, you know, to possibly consider a sale? I know that's like the biggest picture topic possible, but what are your thoughts on that potentially being the end game here?
I mean, I think when, you know, if Roki Sasaki mentions it, and maybe he was going to the Dodgers regardless, but more so if Jurickson Profar mentions it, I think you have to give it a little bit of credence. To what degree, I don't know. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's going to be the roster that's currently constructed, whatever a guy's salary number is at that point. You know, if Preller's looking to trade for guys that, you know, have a couple more years of team control, like the ownership situation's not going to, you know, weigh that heavily. It's when you've got a guy like a Juan Soto who's coming up on a deal, or these guys like King Cesar Rise, that it might be a little bit more difficult. So I think you have to kind of consider it as you have these conversations. But I think as time goes on, it'll probably be like a little bit more business as usual. I think for free agents, maybe there's a bit more uncertainty there. But I think when we're trying to imagine how AJ Preller will construct the roster, you figure there's probably going to be some trades involved. And so how much would that really impact that? I don't know. Especially if he gets guys that are a little bit younger and again, maybe have some team control. It's obviously an unfortunate situation. I'm not sure I know quite what to think of it at this point. And as far as the potential of them selling, you know, it's just a shame because when Peter died, that was obviously heartbreaking. And I think what gave fans a little bit of solace or comfort was keeping it in the family. And I think as we've seen, that's a little bit more complicated than we understood. I certainly don't think if it comes to a point where they have to sell, well, that would be, you know, unfortunate. You just kind of considering Peter's legacy. I'm sure there are some folks with lots of money who would love to own a franchise in San Diego. And I think there's always the fear that they go into more of a cost cutting mode, but you just don't know that that's going to be the case. You know, you might find somebody who appreciates, has seen kind of the passion around the fan base and what this franchise means to the city, especially when they're in the playoffs and when they're competitive. So I think, you know, it seems like the fan base has kind of come around to that idea. I think there was a lot of fear of that outcome. And now given how messy things have already gotten, we're just kind of not even a month into this.
Yeah.
There's maybe more fans that say, okay, you know, this could be the ultimate outcome, and you just gotta hope for the best that it would be an ownership group. Even currently with the Seidlers, like with the Seidler brothers, we don't necessarily know how they would operate. I think we've made some assumptions based on what we've seen the first year or so. But with any ownership group, it's like, okay, you're not going to find a Peter Seidler necessarily because he was more than an owner. But hopefully we end up with a group that will, you know, try to field a competitive roster and is willing to make the financial investments to do that the way that we've seen in the past, even if it's not quite to the degree that we saw a couple years ago.
Yeah, we had the person that broke the story that day, and he said, look, track record here, when these types of things happen with a sports franchise, more often than not, almost every single time it ends in a sale. It's unfortunate. I mean, you just look at what the Broncos had to deal with. That was like 8 years of infighting between family members, and then it ended in a sale. And in those 8 years of the legal drama, They made the postseason 0 times. So it just kind of feels like if track record's anything, this is another case that could potentially last for a long time and end up in maybe, a sell of the franchise. Darnay, are you as curious as I am to know what John Seidler looks like? Because I am so intrigued because I nobody that I've talked to can find me an updated photo of what Jon Seidler looks like.
I mean, there's got to be some sort of technology with AI where if you take images of all the siblings and enter their ages and enter his age, it should be able to spit out an image that's somewhat close, right?
Maybe, but even then, we could be completely fooled.
I am very curious.
Yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, it's such a strange situation, and it feels like we're learning about a new Seidler brother every 6 months or so. And the fact of the matter is, like, there's so much talk about like who's at the games and who isn't. The fact is, if you don't know who somebody is and what they look like, you wouldn't know if you spotted them at the game. So there's a chance that like maybe we have seen Jon Seidler at games,
maybe,
but we're not necessarily looking for him. We would know Shield just like we would know Peter, just like we would know Ron Fowler. Just like we recognize AJ Preller when we see him at a game. If Jim Russell had a brother that showed up in the press box from time to time, I wouldn't know who it is, Maybe we'll finally see a headshot of him and be like, oh yeah, I've stumbled across that guy from time to time, but it would be nice to hear from them at some point. I'm sure it'll happen in Peoria, but just a strange and in many ways unfortunate situation.
That'd be very weird if my brother, I do have a brother by the way, if he showed up in the press box, because that'd be more than I would be able to show up in the press box. But anyway, on that note, Darnay, thanks for joining us. I promise we'll have you on again when John's here, not just when he's out. And we will get you on in the next month. Okay, I promise.
No Eagles talk,
bro. I thought you didn't want to talk about that. Aren't you scared?
I am a little bit. I heard you talking about Aaron. I listened to a podcast today. Somebody asked me about it today, and so I talked about it a little bit. But I'm very much just going into it like no expectations. I know what it's like to feel your heart ripped out, as you do, Jim.
Yeah.
And when you're playing against the Chiefs, you just have to kind of brace yourself for some devastating call or a bit of Mahomes magic in the right or wrong situation. And we all know what that's like. And so I'm just kind of bracing myself for impact a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, just start the game. Like I'm tired.
100%.
Yeah, just start the game. All right, Darnay, we got to go. Thanks for joining us, buddy. Have a great day, man.
Thanks, man. You too. Happy birthday.
Oh, there you go. Waiting for that. Darnay Tripp joining us here on Jon and Jim. All right, coming up next, more Padres talk, Lakers talk, but right now, 877-767-4760. 877-767-4760. Caller number 7. You have won a pair of tickets to see Simple Minds. 877-767-4760. Caller number 5 wins Simple Mind tickets. More Jon and Jim coming up next.
right now, I want you guys to do this. I want you to take out your phones. If you're driving, don't do this. But
if you can do it when you park, that'd be great. Take out your phone, go to the iHeartRadio app, and in the new presets feature, put in San Diego Sports 760. And then after that, put in the Jon and Jim podcast page. So if you are listening on your phone right now, if you are watching on YouTube, if you are not driving in your car, if you're parked, highly preferred over driving, take out your phone, go to the presets feature. It's on the front of the iHeartRadio app once you open it up, and just put San Diego Sports 760 in your presets. And then put the Jon and Jim Show podcast page in your presets. And that's all I'm asking you. That's all I'm asking. Be highly, highly appreciated. All right. Coming up here in this hour, still to get to, we have the wrap, next segment. Also, we're giving away San Diego State Aztec tickets to take on Boise State next Saturday here at Viejas Arena. We'll give away those during Trainwreck Radio. And you're going to hear some sound in a little bit. This just popped up on my timeline. And it's very interesting sound. We don't have to play it right now, Brent, but we'll have it ready for you coming up later in this hour. We also have the 5 o'clock hour as well. We'll get back to what Fangraphs had to say about the Padres' odds this year. It's very interesting when you hear what they truly think of the Padres, not just looking at like percentage chances to make the postseason, but them breaking down why their percentage to make the postseason is very low, comparable to, just coming off a 93-win season. And then now, not so great. So you hear that coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. Also, if you missed our conversation with Bryce Miller, we're going to play that back at 5:30 as well. Also, my back page at 5:45. There's an interesting story on there that John actually sent me. I already saw it. And we're going to be going back to space, Brent, during the back page today. So be prepared for that. Interesting comments by shocker, an LA Dodger regarding the Padres from last year. Like, they're still talking about the Padres team, their Padres postseason team last year. Like, they need to get more validation for their World Series. It's kind of wild once you hear from this certain Dodger player what they had to say about the Padres and their team last postseason. You'll hear that and the wrap, all of it coming up next right here on Jon and Jim.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. The Aztecs are back on the road Saturday night when they take on Colorado State. Our pregame coverage starts right here at 6 o'clock. Uncle Teddy will have the tip shortly after 7, right here on your home for the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. In NFL news, according to NFL Players Association Executive Director Lloyd Howell Jr., quote, nobody wants to play an 18th game. No one, Howell said. 17 games is already, for many of the guys, too long. And it's so lengthy that you're still dealing with injuries going into the next season. In NBA news, the Bucks and the Wizards made a trade this morning. The Bucks sent Chris Middleton to the Wizards for forward Kyle Kuzma. And last night, the Lakers beat the Clippers 122-97. They were led by LeBron James, who had 26 points, 9 assists, and 8 boards. The Lakers' next game is tomorrow night against Golden State, and you can hear that right here on San Diego Sports 760. Your local Staples has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store on everything for your business. And right now at Staples, save up to $250 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends April 5th. Plus, save even more money with the Easy Rewards program at Staples.
It's always funny when, well, the music was abruptly ended.
Yeah, no,
it's always funny when, turn your mic on, Brent.
Yeah.
When a player of a team who didn't play in a series or for the team, but he was on the roster or he was a player on the team, starts spouting off about their eventual championship run. Miguel Rojas, all right, last year he was with the Dodgers, but if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember Miguel Rojas having any impact on the Dodgers World Series run.
I don't either.
Did he have a couple at bats? I mean, honestly, I can't remember. I know Tommy Edman was a guy that came in and I think took over his role and was really good. Like, let me look at Miguel Rojas. So last year, all right, played 103 games for the Dodgers, but I don't know what he did in the postseason. Let me just look this up. In the postseason, if my computer would load, yeah, I don't remember him having this like big impact on the Dodgers postseason run. I could be mistaken, but Miguel Rojas was talking to Chris Rose, and
he was a clubhouse guy.
Yeah, this just popped up on my timeline. Okay, so here's what Miguel Rojas did in the postseason last year for the Dodgers. He did appear in 3 games for the Dodgers against the Padres. He actually had 8 at-bats. That's more than I thought he had. His postseason last year for the Dodgers, he was 2 for 11 with a strikeout, no doubles, triples, home runs, RBI, nothing. So he had 11 at-bats for the Dodgers in the postseason last year. Listen to what Miguel Rojas had to say to Chris Rose about, of all teams, the San Diego Padres from last postseason.
I think everybody in that clubhouse knew that we didn't have the best team last year.
Hold on, you don't think you had the best team last year?
No. If you put the both teams, if you put the Padres and the Dodgers on paper, we didn't have the advantage on that series. Remember, we have a broken Freddie Freeman, on literally one ankle. We have 3 starters. Walker Buehler have a 7 ERA in the regular season, and you don't know how he was going to perform. And then you have 2 starters, 1 rookie, which is Yamamoto, never pitched in that moment before, and Jack Flaherty, who came from another organization, who knows how many pitches he got left to go through the postseason. And then a bunch of dogs in that bullpen that saved us, and a bunch of guys that were ready to play, like Kike Hernandez was the best example. He said to me, this is the moment that they got me here for. So let me take it. Let me take over from now, you know? Tommy Edman, the same way. Tommy Edman didn't play for how many months to start the season? 4 months. He made his debut this year in July. That's why this team was special, not just because the talent. If you think about it, you have 3 starters and you don't have all the stuff that we have right now. What I'm saying is we won because we were a team who showed character and we were ready to play.
Oh my God. Yeah, we were the scrappy underdog LA Dodgers, who, oh, by the way, had the best record in all of baseball. Oh, by the way, had Shohei Ohtani, who won the National League MVP. Oh, by the way, had a top 3 payroll in all of baseball, who just signed Yamamoto in the offseason at $325 million, who signed Shohei Ohtani to the most out of this world contract that you'll ever see. But no, we were the scrappy underdogs. Didn't you have home field advantage? Was Game 5 at Petco or was it at Dodger Stadium? Oh yeah, that's right. It was at Dodger Stadium. Yeah, you were trailing in the series, but you were favored going into the series. You were favored in every single series that you went into last year. Nah, we were the scrappy underdog Dodgers. Give me an effing break, Miguel Rojas. Are you serious? That nothing annoys me more than when the Dodgers of all teams, yeah, they were dealing with injuries. Every team was dealing with injuries. Yes, I get it. You don't have the team that you have now. Nothing annoys me more when the favorites of whatever sport, name it, Chiefs, Warriors back in the day, Dodgers last year, when they eventually win the World Series, one of the first things that they say is, no one believed in us. We were the underdogs. We went through so much struggle. As you won the most games in the National League, the most games in all of baseball, had home field advantage through every single series that you played in. Give me a break.
I think the biggest insult is this.
We won because we were a team who showed character and we were ready to play.
Okay, so the Padres, you have no character, is what he said.
Now look,
you have no character and you weren't ready to play.
Yeah, he's not wrong about games 4 and 5. The offense wasn't ready to play.
He's half right.
But still, the whole entire summary of listening to Miguel Rojas there speak about that. One, unprovoked, out of nowhere, like, dude, what? To continue to have to label the Padres as like the greatest team ever, and you overcame the like 98 New York Yankees to win a World Series. It happened on the Mookie podcast. It happened with Dave Roberts. Like, if the Padres were so amazing, then why weren't they the team that won almost 100 games last year? Why weren't they the team that had the MVP on it? Why weren't they the team that hosted Game 5 at home? Okay.
I look at it like an embellished fish story. You know, the fish you caught might have been like, 3 inches big, but you're going to tell everybody how is this big, 3-foot whopper, and you had to struggle so much to get it in there. And this is the same thing, because they don't want to just be like, oh yeah, like you said, we won more games than any other team and we were favored and everything else, because that doesn't sound good. It sounds good if we were this underdog and everyone was rooting against us, which they were, but it sounds better that way. So they're going to embellish it, make it seem like they were the underdogs. And
it's like if you have a chain of people and you have to whisper something in their ear, and it has to go
game,
telephone game, and it has to go all the way down. Like, hey, we won the World Series last year by person 10. We overcame the mighty Padres when we were the underdogs, and it was the most incredible comeback in baseball history to win a World Series. Dude, give me a break. That's the type of stuff where I'm like, oh my God, my eyes can't roll in the back of my head any farther than they already are. Man, we were so scrappy last year. The Padres were amazing. Did you see the Padres? They were the best team ever. Oh, I can't believe we beat them. Dude, stop. Stop. It wasn't like Freddie Freeman went out there with his ankle cut off. Yeah, he was hurt. But you still had Mookie Betts. You still had Shohei Ohtani. Still had a pretty good lineup. Teoscar Hernandez. Like, give me a break. Calm down. All right? You weren't the scrappy underdog. You never were, and you never will be. Ever. The Dodgers were the favorites going into that series. Yes, at one point, were the Padres the favorites? Yeah, because they had a 2-1 series lead. Most of the time, when a team has a 2-1 lead or a 3-1 lead, guess what? They become the favorites. Rarely do you see a team trailing in a series still be the favorites in that series, unless it goes to game 7 or game, whatever, when it's tied up. But in this case, no. You don't have the right to say you were the scrappy underdogs, okay? You were the best team in baseball. You had the highest payroll. Even before what you guys did this offseason, you had the MVP. You had home field advantage. You have 3 MVPs in your lineup batting 1, 2, and 3. Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, then Mookie Betts, then Freddie Freeman. Okay? You don't have any say as far as we were the underdog. Bro, you never were the underdog. Ever. Okay? So keep telling yourself that to make yourself feel better. But at the end of the day, the Dodgers never were and never will be a scrappy underdog team. It's just stop. Anytime you hear somebody say that about the Dodgers or a Dodger player say that, then immediately stop listening to that person because that's not true. It is a false narrative that is thrown out there by Dodger players and some of their fans to hype up their first legitimate World Series since 1988.
Did you see this on the text line? Rojas did do something significant last year. He was the dude that hit into the triple play.
Oh, that's right. So he
Thanks,
did.
Text line.
I was more or less saying, I know he played 100+ games for the Dodgers in the regular season. I was talking about the postseason. Like, did he do anything significant in the postseason for the Dodgers?
Well, I couldn't think of anything he did in the regular season either. But now, yeah, he hit into the triple play.
His regular season wasn't all that bad.
Well, look how many games they won. I don't think there's anybody on their team that had, what you call a horrible season, except for maybe that dude they traded that was like the lifelong Dodger fan, and then as soon as he got there, he sucked.
No, Miguel Rojas had a fine season. All right, 103 games played. He hit 283 with a 747 OPS. Now, granted, he didn't have much production, only 6 home runs, 36 RBIs, but he never has been a home run guy or an RBI guy in his career. He had 21 doubles in 103 games. Yeah, he had a fine season. Hell, Padres would have loved that from one of a second baseman or whatever. Even though Jake Cronenworth, I think, is a little better than Miguel Rojas, but hitting 283 with a 747 OPS last year with 21 doubles in 103 games, that's fine. I was talking about the postseason. He didn't do jack squat in the postseason. And he's talking about how they're these underdogs. Give me a break. All right, coming up next, your chance to win San Diego State Aztec tickets as they take on Boise State. We're playing Trainwreck Radio. We need 2 contestants right now. 877-767-4760. That's 877-767-4760. First 2 contestants, you're playing for a chance to win San Diego State Aztec tickets against Boise State next week. Trainwreck Radio coming up next.
on Jon and Jim. Coming up next hour, we'll get back into
Luka's first game with the Lakers that will happen this Saturday. Also, Fangraphs had some interesting comments about the Padres' playoff chances for the upcoming season. Also, if you missed it, Bryce Miller joined us earlier in the show. We'll bring back that interview at the bottom of the hour in the 5 o'clock hour. Then, of course, my back page at 5:45 as usual. But right now, Brent, let's get to this.
All right, 3 questions, 2 contestants, 1 lifeline. Today's 2 contestants, we have Thomas and we have Steve. Thomas, you called in first, so you'll get to go first today since you're both going to have Jim for your partner. So, Thomas, you're going to be up first, and Steve, you're going to be second, okay?
Okay.
All right, Steve, you there?
Yes.
All right, perfect. You are second, my guy. Thomas, you're up first. Brent, what is the question today?
All right, guys, like we've been talking about, the Super Bowl is this Sunday.
What?
Yeah. Did you know that there have been 7 players with at least 3 rushing touchdowns in Super Bowl history?
Like in a single game?
No, like in their career.
Oh, career. Okay. Career.
In their career. So today's question, name any of those 7 players with at least 3 rushing touchdowns in the Super Bowl in their career.
All right, 7 players with at least 3 total rushing touchdowns in the Super Bowl in their entire career. So, Thomas, you're up first. What is your first guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
First guess, I'm going to go Terrell Davis.
Terrell Davis, that's a good one. It's a very good guess. He's on the list. He had three touchdowns, I think, here in San Diego. Steve, you're up next. What is your first guess? Do you have a lifeline if you want to use it?
I'm going to say Emmett Thomas.
Who'd you say?
Emmett Thomas, Dallas.
Emmett what?
What?
Emmett Thomas not on the list. Back to Thomas. What is your second guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
We're going to go with Emmett Smith.
Emmett Smith.
Oh, you.
Yeah. It was Emmett Smith on Emmett Thomas. Steve, you're going to need this to stay in the game. What is your next guess? You do have a lifeline if you want to use it.
I'm going to go with Roger Craig.
Roger Craig, very good guess. In the list. Oh, no. That means Thomas is the winner. That was a quickie. That was a very quick one. Roger Craig might have had more than 3 touchdowns in the Super Bowl, but 3 rushing touchdowns, probably not.
He only had 2.
Okay. Because I'm sure he had a bunch of receiving touchdowns, but not rushing touchdowns. So he's only 2? Okay.
Yeah, he only had 2 rushing.
2 rushing touchdowns. Who do we miss on the list? My guess was going to be either Marshawn Lynch or Franco Harris.
Franco would be correct. Marshawn would not be correct.
Okay. Who else did we miss on this list?
All right. Number 1 is Emmett Smith.
Yeah.
He had 5. Then Thurman Thomas.
Ooh, that's a good one.
He had 4. John Elway. He had 4.
Wow.
Franco Harris had 4. Jalen Hurts had 3.
Oh, that's right.
So he could add to his total this weekend. Former Badger and Patriot. James White, he had 3. Terrell Davis, as I mentioned, he was the last one that had 3.
All right. Congratulations to Thomas for winning a pair of Aztec tickets to next Saturday's game at Viejas Arena as the Aztecs take on Boise State. So congratulations to Thomas for getting those tickets. Brent, I'm going to double up on tickets right now. All right. Is that okay? No, it's not okay. Okay. We'll do that next hour. Simple Mind tickets next hour. We're going to be giving away those. Also the wrap next hour as well. We'll get to more Padres talk. You know, the projections are out. We're getting close to spring training. The projections are the projections, but what goes into these projections? Why are the Padres where they are? Very interesting comments from Fangraphs regarding the Padres' upcoming season. Also, if you missed it, Bryce Miller, he joined us earlier in the show. We're going to bring back that conversation. Really good conversation with Bryce at the bottom of next hour. Then, of course, we'll wrap everything up with my back page. Stay with us right here on Jon and Jim.
All right. So what could you do with an extra $75,000 like right now, or even a couple $100,000? If you own a home, you can get that money in less than a week with Loan Pronto. Hey guys, it is Schaefer. Loan Pronto is the leader in quickly converting your home equity into cold hard cash. So you can pay off all your credit cards or start that home remodel. Loan Pronto has several easy options to let you access the cash from your home. There's virtually no paperwork or cumbersome process, no junk fees, often no appraisal. Listen, the average homeowner now has over $300,000 in equity. $300,000. That's your money. You can use it. One client got $150,000 out, paid off all their credit cards, a couple of car loans, personal loan, cutting their monthly expenses by $1,500. You can get approved in as little as 1 day. So act now with no hard credit pull up front. LoanPronto.com. 619-207-4336. Get the money you need for anything. 619-207-4336. LoanPronto.com. Equal housing lender. NMLS 1661781. Subject to lender approval. NMLSConsumerAccess.org.
This report is sponsored by eBay. The Lakers beat the Clippers last night, 122-97. They were led by LeBron James, who had 26 points, 9 assists, 8 boards. The Lakers' next game is tomorrow night against Golden State. In other NBA news, the Bucks and the Wizards made a trade this morning, with the Bucks sending Chris Middleton to the Wizards for Kyle Kuzma. And Suns forward Kevin Durant has expressed he has zero interest on returning to the Warriors. Make sure to catch the Aztecs this Saturday when they go on the road to take on Colorado State. Our pregame coverage starts right here at 6 o'clock, and Uncle Teddy will have the tips shortly after 7. We all got a thing. Yes, even you. If you love fashion, car parts, trading cards, whatever you're into, it's on eBay. So go find the thing that keeps you up at night. eBay, things people love.
Getting you all set for that drive home. Let's just start the show. Now, it's time for Jon Jim.
All right, final hour of Jon and Jim on a birthday Wednesday. Bryce Miller, if you missed it, is going to replay that interview. Is going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Really good interview with Bryce. But where we started the show today
was Fangraphs releasing their projections. A lot of projection talk. The Padres would make a move. We wouldn't have to talk about stupid projections. But I digress. Their projections came out, and the thing that they said about the Padres was the most interesting part. Projections are projections. Like I've said, when you look at power rankings, never, ever consider power rankings as a form of grading or evaluating your team. Never. If any show's breaking down power rankings, getting mad over those, probably not a very smart show. Just don't ever do that. Projections, on the other hand, you take something away from it. Not everything. It's not a thing that you should live and die by. Like, oh my gosh, the Padres were only projected to win 84 games this year. I'm not watching. No. But it is interesting to see, hey, the projections had him at 84 wins. Okay. I'll question that. Now, that's not the actual projection. I'm just making this up for argument's sake. But what they said about the Padres, about their actual projections, does make you kind of raise your eyebrows a little bit. So when you look at the National League West, it's the Dodgers. It's always going to be the Dodgers. But it says here, quote, "It feels weird to see the Padres meaningfully behind the Diamondbacks. But in looking through these projections, I'm starting to feel the downside of AJ Preller's quantity for quality trading styles. The bottom of this lineup is rough. We're talking worst left field situation in baseball rough. A catching tandem composed of guys better suited being backups rough. Batting your DH ninth rough. Sure, the stars are bright, but the whole idea of stars and scrubs is that you cobbled together average players around the stars more easily. And San Diego absolutely hasn't done that." This is as blunt as it gets. It's as blunt. That paragraph is as blunt as it could get. Yes, they have stars. No one's denying that. They have Manny Machado, future Hall of Famer. They have Fernando Tatis Jr. If he stays healthy, could put up an MVP type of season. They have Jackson Merrill, one of the brightest stars in the game. But do they have the necessary pieces to round out the edges? Right now, no. And when they look at projections here on Fangraphs and they say, all right, what's their outfield situation look like? And in particular, left field, there's no in-house option like Jackson Merrill was last year. Yeah, there was a lot of questions about Jackson Merrill. We had all of them. Me and John asked all the questions for Jackson Merrill, but not one time did we think or say this guy is going to be a scrub. But Jackson Merrill being one of their highest rated prospects, you could at least go off that. You could at least say, well, okay, Jackson Merrill, there's questions about him, but hey, he's a highly rated prospect. Tirso Ornelas is not. Not to say he can't turn into a productive major league player. He absolutely could, but it was much easier to envision that from Jackson Merrill than it is to envision that from Tirso Ornelas right now. So that's one thing. And then the catching position, it's so interesting because they signed Elias Diaz and we all acted like, oh yeah, it's a good move. We even said here, it's a functional move. John was praising. I even put out an Instagram post about it. We weren't praising AJ Preller last year for all the functional move. Like, hey, raise the functional move banner. It was all the moves combined together turned out to be magic. If the only move he made last year was like signing Donovan Solano, I don't think I know the Padres wouldn't have been in the position that they were at the end of the season. It was like the sum of all the parts, and all the sum of the parts created the magical 93 win season.
It was like he's making gumbo or something. He just starts throwing everything in a pot, and you're like, dude, that's going to be awful. And then when it's done and you taste it, you're like, dude, this is actually pretty awesome.
And the problem with making gumbo this year is he's not throwing all these spices into
we didn't make enough.
Not only did you not make enough, you forgot the salt.
Yeah,
or you forgot the paprika or some important spice that you had last time, which was Jerks and Profar, and now this time you don't have it. So what are you going to put in there to replace that spice that was Jerks and Profar last year? And back to the catching position, could Elias Diaz and Luis Campisano turn out to be a serviceable backstop? Absolutely. They could. But, going into the year, there are a lot of questions with that. They are concerns. I don't have this 100% faith that they're going to put up the production that Higgy did last year.
Do you think they could get it between the two of them?
I think between the two potentially. And, I have all these questions and we have all these questions. And then I see the people, in the chat, on the text line. And look, I agree with you. Like, these questions are kind of the same questions that we had last year. No one knew Higgy was going to be what he turned into. 18 home runs? Are you serious? If I told you Elias Diaz has 18 home runs for the Padres this year, what?
I think my phone was hacked, like when the Luka trade happened.
Right. It's April Fool's Day, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So a lot of the questions that we had last year, yes, are pretty much the same as we have this year. Maybe not to the extent they were last year, and that's a credit to all the moves AJ made. But we also saw a farm system that had a lot of talent that I think you knew or could put into trade, computers and say, all right, well, you got XYZ, and I'm okay if you trade them. There are two players in the Padres farm system right now that apparently are untouchable. I'm okay with it at this point in time. But what if, at the deadline, the Padres are 10 games over 500? Whoa, 10 games over 500. Sorry,
is that your stomach?
That was my stomach. That was my acid reflex.
Reflux.
Whoops. If you heard that on the radio or you heard that on YouTube, someone cut that. Anyway, when you have really not a lot in your farm system to trade away, and say they're 10 games over 500 of the trade deadline, and they need that piece to put them over the top, how are you going to obtain that piece? Am I saying potentially trade Ethan Salas or Leo DeVries? No, I'm not. But what if at that moment in time, there is a player out there that's on the block, and it's going to take either Leo DeVries or Ethan Salas to get him, and that player would definitely help this team go over the top. I have to say, don't count players as completely untouchable with this Padres team. I know right now you're saying that Ethan Salas and DeVries are untouchables, but nobody's untouchable. Nobody. I know it's different sports, but Luka freaking Doncic just got traded, okay, at 25 years old. Nobody's untouchable. That's how I view it. If there's an opportunity, you take it. Right now, no, absolutely, absolutely not. I'm firmly against, at this moment in time, giving up a Salas or DeVries. But look, if you go into this season once again with all the question marks you have, and you do perform like you did last year, where it's a kind of a bumpy ride the first 90 games or so, and then that switch flips. How are you not as a team going to be discussing potentially doing that? Why aren't you going to try to capitalize on this very moment that you have in this franchise's history with the players you have on it? I think going into this season, to me, at this moment in time, DeVries and Salas off the table, because the season hasn't started yet. We don't know what this team's going to look like. But at the deadline, with almost kind of like a last last hurrah type of thing, like a last ride. Because you're not resigning King, you're not resigning Cease, and you're not resigning Luis Arise. I think going into that with an open mind has to be what this team is doing. Now, it's a long way from now. Long way. This team still has to show that they can overcome all the holes they have on this roster. But I'm telling you, the how important this season is, and I feel like this season is very important. That's why we continue to talk and harp on the lack of moves, because I mean, I don't know about them, but we feel like this season is uber important with everything surrounding it, the players they have on it, who's under contract, the long-term guys, the short-term guys, how important this season is. If you get to a point in this season at around the deadline and say you're a good team, say you're, the 5 seed or hell, you're the top wild card spot. Players like DeVries and Salas, if I was AJ Preller, I wouldn't consider them untouchable. That's just me. I get the future of the franchise, but again, prospects are suspect until proven otherwise. How can you say that Salas, a guy that is hitting 220 in A ball or the minors, is going to be the next Pudge Rodriguez? Like, I don't know about that. And especially when he's potentially going to turn into that guy, will be 5-6 years down the road when all of the guys that are under contract right now with the Padres are either going to be old or they're going to be gone.
Yeah, in my opinion, that's what makes this tricky with baseball, stuff like that. Because in no other sport, the Chiefs are never going to draft some, 18-year-old offensive lineman and then sit on him for 10 years, just hoping that in 10 years he's going to be great. But in baseball, they'll sign like 14, 15-year-olds with the, promise, doing air quotes, of, oh, well, by the time he's 25 years old, he's going to be an all-star.
Right.
But we don't know. And it takes so long to develop. Are you really going to want to hang on to a guy that, his projection might not be MLB ready for another 5 years?
Yeah.
There's a lot that can happen in 5 years that you're going to sit there. If you're going to do that, then they have to be like a can't miss, like another Tatis Jr. or another
Bryce Harper.
Yeah, it has to be someone that's just so blatantly obvious that this person's going to be a superstar that like anybody can see it.
Yeah, Iron Swan in the chat, just like how Gore was untouchable. Exactly. Everyone thought Gore was untouchable, and guess what? He got traded. Now I got traded for Juan Soto. But still, I think viewing guys like but guys like Salas and DeVries as completely untouchable to try to help this team, or not help this team get better in a very crucial season for the Padres. I don't know, man. I would keep all avenues and all doors open. Not right now, because you don't know what the team is going to be. If you traded Salas or DeVries in the offseason for a big piece for this team, what if the team sucks? Then you're extra screwed.
Well, it's one of those things too, to where I almost wonder if he would use it as like a negotiation tactic.
For what? For
just them being untouchable by saying, say he, oh, we want to make a trade for, Joe Blow, who plays left field. Well, the first name I came up with. And they're just like, oh, okay, well, who are you going to give up? Well, this guy and this guy, they're untouchable. Okay, well, there's no way else. Well, we'll throw in him. Wait, I thought you said he was an untouchable. You're going to give us someone that's untouchable? It's going to make him seem special and like just unique, to where it seems like a can't miss opportunity, to where it's, oh God, should we really pass up on this? This guy's untouchable. We may never get this opportunity again.
And that's why this season is a lot of moving parts. It's so important. The thing you just said there, Brent, we might not get this opportunity again. They aren't going to get this opportunity again. They are the Padres are not in the immediate future, are not going to have the opportunity to go into a season with Michael King, and Dylan Cease and Yu Darvish and Luis Arise and Manny Machado and Xander and Toddy and Jackson Merrill all in the same team. Not to say you can't get better in the future because things change all the time. But this particular club, this core of players, the players that Mike Shildt thinks the world of, that just won 93 games, yeah, you lost a huge piece in that in Jerks and Profar, but still, you're not going to try to maximize that core. It's just, I don't know. It's interesting to me. It's interesting to me. All right, coming up next, we'll get to the wrap. Also, Bryce Miller, if you missed that conversation, he's going to join us at the bottom of the hour. Also, right now, your chance to win Simple Mind tickets, 877-767-4760. Again, that number, 877-767-4760. Caller number 4. You have one pair of tickets to see Simple Minds. Again, that number is 877-767-4760. A pair of Simple Mind tickets to give away. Caller number 4. More Jon and Jim coming up next.
deadline is lit. Deadline for the trade deadline is tomorrow. But moments ago, according to Shams,
The Warriors have made a trade. They have traded. Let me just pull this up here. He says the Heat and the Warriors are finalizing a deal that will send Jimmy Butler to Golden State for Andrew Wiggins, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, and a protected first-round pick. Ugh.
Happy birthday.
You son of a dude. Oh my gosh. Jimmy Butler 5 years ago would have been great.
Oh yeah, that would have been an awesome. That would have been like your guys' equivalent to match the Luka trade, but yeah, not now.
Dude's a head case. He's a problem wherever he goes. He's having a worse season than Andrew Wiggins. If that was the trade, might as well just kept Andrew Wiggins and Dennis Schroeder. There's no point. You are trading. Are you getting better with this trade? No, you're not.
No,
you're not. You're essentially either staying the same or getting worse. And you just gave up a haul to the Miami Heat.
Yeah, you gave them 2 starters.
You gave them 2 starters.
Schroeder will start and so will Wiggins.
And to be honest, when Kyle Anderson's played this year for the Warriors, he's been very serviceable. And then a first-round pick, protected first-round pick. That pick better be like protected all the way up to like pick 14. If it's a top 3 protected pick, brutal. Just a couple days ago, Jimmy Butler was like, yeah, I don't want to go to the Golden State Warriors. The dude, I think, is under his final year of his contract, or he is under contract for one more season, if I'm not mistaken. But this year, Jimmy Butler's averaging 17 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Dude, that is a brutal trade, in my opinion. I think that was a desperation move by the Warriors. To try to get some superstar to pair with Steph Curry. But this is not the superstar you want. I'm sorry. If it was for Kevin Durant, I get it. But it's not. It's for Jimmy Butler. And Jonathan Kuminga is going into his final year of his deal. He better come back and be an all-star player right away for you. But if I'm looking at it from an unbiased perspective, actually, I can't. I was gonna say,
I have an unbiased perspective. It still sucks.
It still sucks.
It's still not a good trade for the Warriors. If everyone says that, not Denver, the Mavericks got fleeced in their whole deal, then Golden State got fleeced in this.
Yep. The meme, Brent, of the old man wearing a collared shirt, holding up the exact same collared shirt that he got for a present. When the Warriors before the Jimmy Butler trade versus Warriors after the Jimmy Butler trade, nothing has changed with them.
Yeah, that's just like one of my favorite memes of what's the difference? It's the same picture.
God, that is brutal.
Did that ruin your birthday?
I mean, it didn't help. My birthday is not ruined, but I'm just going to choose to not pay too much attention to this for right now until after my dinner tonight, and then after dinner I can be upset about it. Man, brutal. Well, Jimmy Butler to the Warriors for a haul. Pat Riley fleecing Mike Dunleavy Jr.
Man, what a week for Riles. First, he makes money off of selling the trademark or whatever, allowing the Chiefs to do 3-peat shirts. So he'll probably make bank off of that. And now he makes this trade, and
the
now
dude's
the Heat set up.
The dude's a free agent after this year. Oh, okay. I gotta go to break. So coming up next, if you missed it, Bryce Miller had a great conversation with Bryce earlier in the show. We'll replay that for you coming up next.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. In breaking NBA news, the Heat are sending disgruntled guard Jimmy Butler to the Golden State Warriors. The Heat are currently finalizing a deal that would send Butler to Golden State for Andrew Wiggins, Dennis Schroeder, Kyle Anderson, and a protected first-round pick, according to ESPN. In NFL news, according to the NFL Players Association Executive Director Lloyd Howell Jr., nobody wants to play an 18th game. No one, Howell said. 17 games is already, for many of the guys, too long. 17 games is also so lengthy that you're still dealing with injuries going into next season, according to Lowell. Remember to catch the Aztecs this Saturday when they go on the road to take on Colorado State. Our pregame coverage starts at 6 o'clock. Uncle Teddy will have the tip right after 7 on your home for the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. Your local Staples has hot deals and super low prices throughout the store on everything for your business. And right now at Staples, save up to $250 off your print order. Exclusions apply. Visit staples.com/print for details. Ends April 5th. Plus, save even more with the Easy Rewards program at Staples.
All right, back here on Jon and Jim, still gathering my thoughts. This whole trade is ridiculous. Anyway, if you missed Bryce Miller earlier in the show, we had a great conversation about Padres Fan Fest, the vibe around the team, and the offseason moves, the lack thereof, that the Padres are making this year. Here's our conversation with Bryce Miller.
Well, it was a little bit of both. Like, your point about it was pretty full, and it probably was. This is the first time they've done split sessions because it was rained out last year. A couple of years ago, they just had everybody coming at once, and it really overwhelmed all the walkways and stadium access points because it was a ton of people, and that was the excitement of Xander Bogaerts had arrived, and Machado and Tatis and Bogaerts were on that Gallagher Square stage, and it felt like a rock concert in a lot of ways. But this time, splitting that up so the logistics were better, half the people at once, roughly. So it was very busy, tons of Padres gear, which, is obvious. You're going to have that. But I also, the more I talk to people, some themes came up. There are real concerns among fans. Just the fact that, the family dispute was a big one that I think almost everybody brought up to me. Because they don't know what that means and what does it mean for how long. And, it has that inhibited them, paralyzed them a little bit from making moves during this period without Peter Seidler as they kind of wrestle over going to the court system, who is in control of this team. There's some of that fear among fans and just the fact that they've lost more players in this offseason than they've gained by a wide margin. So, until AJ Preller does something to add on, which if you listen to him talk at FanFest, you got the sense that, he plans to, and because he pointed out that in past years, Dylan Cease was, right at the end of spring training when they got him. Luis Ariz was, a month into the season. He doesn't operate by the normal offseason clock, but that mix of, we trust in AJ because of what he's done in recent years. There was still that, okay, we haven't done anything. Well, the Giants got better. The Diamondbacks got better. So I guess bottom line, it felt like fans were optimistic because they've seen through the last 3 years what that can look like. At the same time, there is concern about, the lack of any moves, the ownership tussle, that kind of thing. But I think there's a lot of wait and see with the fan base.
Bryce Miller of the UT join us here on Jon and Jim. Yeah, for me, Bryce, seeing the amount of fans there, and yes, there is concern. And in your article, you talk to fans expressing that concern, but these fans also said, you know what, I'm going to show up and support the faithful. Like, they're still going to get close to 3 million fans this year.
They're going to have sellouts. They have, already sold out all their season tickets. Even with all this stuff going on, it just still feels like the fans, even though they see it and they are recognizing it, there's a part of them that, whatever, we're still going to go to the games. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, there's some of that for sure, but I don't know if it would seem like that if they didn't have some faith in the recent track record of AJ Preller.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of, the Padres haven't done anything of real note yet, other than Elias Diaz, which doesn't really knock your socks off. But there's that feeling, especially what they did last year late. Remember, they had the contract with Machado at spring training.
Right.
It's not unusual. He doesn't operate on the same timeline as a lot of general managers, and he's about as good as you get in terms of creativity trying to find those deals. You go back 2 years ago, and there was a track record, for Waka and Lugo, but what they did that year far exceeded what I think anybody thought they could do. They kind of revitalized their careers in San Diego. I think there's still a sense of, okay, it's AJ, something's coming. But at this point, it's been unusually quiet, and that does create some concern.
Yeah, and February is a month that historically he's made probably the most moves you could look at in his tenure, at least the last handful of years. A lot of moves being made in February leading up to the season. When we talk about all the inactivity that they've had this off season, and yes, it does. Preller is the guy that pulls the trigger on these moves. But how much do you really think it is Preller in this situation and not the ownership? Or do you feel like it's the ownership that is, I guess, in a sense, handcuffing Preller here? Because we both know, everybody knows, like, Preller doesn't sleep. He wants to make moves every single day. He is always thinking about how to improve this team. And that's why, like you said, it's eerily quiet for an AJ Preller offseason.
Yeah, and I think they were a little bit handcuffed, knowing that they were in, the group of finalists for Roki Sasaki, and that has a trickle down effect to young guys. They were, going to sign some oral commitments to players, and now that kind of floodgate is open with Sasaki going to the Dodgers, I think they were putting a lot of eggs in that basket because he's like a living, breathing lottery ticket. Incredibly affordable for what his ceiling is. Because he came over from Japan, Japan early. And just, to be able to control a guy like that for 6 years, that was priority one. And priority two was a long way down the road. But now I think he's accelerated what he's doing to find bargains in the market. He's been so creative and good in recent years of doing that. So that timing kind of coupled with, really they haven't done much. I think stuff is still coming, but you also look at the free agent board and you're like, okay, who is it? Who's a catcher that's available? They might be rolling with what they've got right now. How much would they be willing to spend for a left fielder, another starting pitcher? That's the reason I think the Dylan Cease trade makes the most sense. Yeah, they clearly don't have cash and capital to move on anyone with a sizable contract. At least they've given no indication that they would do that. But a guy like Dylan Cease has the ability to unlock a trade with a team that gets you multiple pieces. Plus, he's a Scott Boras guy, a year from free agency. The odds of them re-signing him to a new deal after that year, I think, are low. And if that's the case, then get what you can now. And it might come in the form of a trade more than anything they do on the free agent market.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Bryce, if you were AJ Preller and the directive, it's get that number below the CBT. Who are you going to offload? Like, do you think AJ Preller wants to trade Dylan Cease? Because I feel like if it were up to AJ, he's trying to, not only add to this roster, but keep as much intact as possible because they just came off a 93-win season. The goal should be, all right, what are we going to do coming off of a 93-win year with most of the core back? How can we get over that hump? But, being put in that situation, Bryce, Dylan Cease, like, don't you want to keep the guy or try to do everything to keep him to try to compete?
Yeah, on one hand, I understand that thinking, but if you're going to make this team better and they feel like they probably need to be better, and what are the mechanisms available to do that? And really, without giving us any indication that they would pay a lot to a free agent, it just goes back to who's tradable and who's tradable in a way that could get you a lot, essentially.
Right. Yeah.
Who could solve multiple problems for you. And really, that's a Dylan Cease type guy. Of course, it would be painful to say you just traded a frontline pitcher, potentially your number one arm. Although more and more at the age and everything else, I think a lot of people think that could or is going to be Michael King. What can you do that fits within your resources to try to make a move that helps you in multiple positions? And really, I just don't see anybody out there that, the contract could be picked up other than Steve. So, yeah, it would be tough to lose a pitcher, but if you can fix two major problems for that, I'm just making that up, you have to think about it because that's the tools you have. And there are tools that you don't. And Dylan Cease could help you in multiple ways.
Yeah, work with what you got. Bryce Miller joining us here on San Diego Sports 760. Final one, Bryce. I'm assuming that John Seidler will be voted in as the chairman or chairperson of this franchise either later this week or next week. But at spring training, if he is there, what's the one question you'd want to ask John Seidler if he ends up speaking to the media in Peoria?
For me, it would probably, off the top of my head, I'm not sure I'd know what the exact question would be, but I would try to think what you want to know is what are his motivations? What's he willing to say they're going to do? What's his commitment? On one hand, I think that you need to operate like the Dodgers don't exist. They're on another planet at this point.
Yeah.
You've got to get to the playoffs. So you got to be better than the Giants, better than the Diamondbacks. And how does he see that happening? How are you going to position yourself to be better than those two teams? As a priority to get in. They got in last year. They had an incredible second half run to get there, but it's all about getting into a playoff series and just let's go 5-7 games and see if we can beat you. On paper, the Dodgers would be favored in probably any series of any length. But so I think I just want to know his philosophy on how to approach that and how he thinks they can do it.
Do you know what John Seidler looks like? I feel like I ask everybody and they don't know. So do you know what he looks like?
No, I don't. I don't think I've seen anybody. I mean, I know Sheila Seidler and I've talked to her multiple times.
Of course.
I used to see Peter at the park a lot and talk to him. But that's part of why the question is concerning the fans. They're unknown quantities. I mean, one thing you were confident in is when Peter was in control, they were going to make the move. They were going to spend the money. When they got Machado at first, that really got the ball rolling on this new anything is possible. You were confident he wasn't going to look at the checkbook necessarily to get better and to make signings that reverberate, not just through your fan base, but through baseball. Are Matthew and John and the other side, his brothers, are they that committed in that way? I mean, I don't think we know. And that's the reason there's uncertainty is you don't know what their motivations are. And yeah, it's an onion you'd have to peel because the old line, yeah, we want to win a World Series for the city of San Diego. But do you want to win as badly as Peter did? Do you want to spend the type of money Peter did? Do you have the commitment to get it done and at multiple positions? We just don't know. And that's the thing. That's the mystery moving ahead.
No doubt. Bryce, thanks for joining me, man. I really appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Yep. Thanks, Jim.
All right, that was Bryce Miller joining us earlier in the show. Programming a note, tomorrow we're going to have Kyle Glazer join the program talk about the Padres. Also, he has a new Padres podcast out there. And then Friday, Cynthia Freeland of the NFL Network is going to join us, get us ready for Super Bowl Sunday. But coming up next, we'll wrap up the show with my back page. Stay with us right here on Jon and Jim. All right, so the NBA trade deadline was wild this year.
It's not even over yet. Technically,
you're right. It's not over
more
yet.
craziness could happen between now and lunchtime tomorrow.
So here is the full trade, because this is between 5 teams, Brent. Here is the full trade. Warriors get Jimmy Butler. The Miami Heat get Andrew Wiggins, PJ Tucker, and a protected first-round pick, which is from the Warriors. Top 10 protected. Which means if the Warriors don't make the postseason and they end up with a top 10 pick this year in the lottery, that will go to the Golden State Warriors. But if they get a pick outside the top 10 this year, it goes to the Miami Heat. The Pistons get Lindy Waters and Josh Richardson. The Jazz get Dennis Schroeder, and the Raptors get Kyle Anderson. So a 5-team trade between the Warriors, the Heat, the Pistons, the Jazz, and the Raptors. What the hell happened?
That's the one thing I hate about the NBA. I hate it when they do like these 5-team trades. It's so confusing.
Like what? I on paper, to me, as a Warriors fan, feels like a desperation move. Doesn't feel like a move that makes them better. But I don't know. We'll see. All right, Brent.
It's like I told you during the break. I was like, so how long until Draymond and him are having fist fights in practice?
Oh, bro. First game they lose, it's going to be a fight. Like, the one thing that I will say, though, is Jimmy Butler, it's like you have to get him in moderation. You can't have Jimmy Butler for a long time, or it will end like it did in Miami, or like it did in Chicago. Now, Philadelphia was one and done, but for Jimmy Butler for 1.5 seasons, all right, I think it's 2 seasons. Yeah, so 2 seasons, the rest of this year, next year, and then the 2026-2027 year. In moderation. You're not getting him for 6 years. 2 years? 2.5? Okay. Because he signed a contract extension. All right. Let's get to this. So we're going back to space on the back page. According to NASA, they say there is a 1.9% chance that a large asteroid will hit Earth in 2032. Up from 1.6% yesterday. Now, the joke would have been if it happened in 2031. Wow, the Lakers first round pick they gave to the Mavs won't ever get it. According to NASA's Center of Near Earth Object Studies.
See, that Nico guy knew something we didn't know.
Yeah. The 1.9% chance that a large asteroid could pass along enough to Earth within the next decade poses a potential threat. The odds of impact in 2032 have increased from 1.6% yesterday to 1.9% today, translating to a 1 in 53 chance of a collision. What? Or a 98.1% chance that the asteroid will miss Earth. Okay. As John says, do you want to fly a plane with a 98.1% chance of landing? The asteroid is named 2024 YRV or YR4, sorry. It measures between 130 and 330 feet in diameter. These estimates will likely fluctuate as more data becomes available. Okay, 130 feet's not bad. Right? If you told me it was the size of Texas, we had a problem.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's going to be coming in with such force that it's still going to leave a pretty big hole, probably. I don't think we need to call Michael Bay yet or anything. But
no. Where's Bruce Willis when you need him? And finally, thanks for this, Brent. Harry Potter themed butter beer snacks and treats are coming to our local grocery stores soon. Here are some of the treats. Goldfish butter beer crackers. Now, if you're asking yourself, what's butter beer? It's the drink in Harry Potter that the kids drink. It's not really beer. It's like a cider almost type of thing.
I've never had it.
I've never had it either, but it's at Universal Studios in Los Angeles. They also are releasing Hershey Kisses Harry Potter butter beer flavor candies. Keebler Butterbeer Fudge Strips, and Skinny Pop Harry Potter Butterbeer flavored kettle popcorn.
Do you feel like they kind of missed the boat? They're a little too late on the Harry Potter trend?
No, because Harry Potter is coming up with a new series for HBO Max.
Yeah, it's getting rebooted. But
And Harry Potter, I mean, it's kind of like one of those movies that any kid could watch anytime. You'll be able to find these treats in stores beginning March 1st for the season of Butterbeer. That's going to do it.
Not to be confused with the season of Butterbean.
Butterbean, yeah, the wrestler, right?
That's Boxer.
Boxer, sorry. All right, that's going to do it for Jon and Jim today. Thanks to Darnay Tripp for joining us. Thanks to Bryce Miller. Thank you, Brent. And thank you to everybody out there that wished me a happy birthday. I'm on my way to stuff my face with ungodly amounts of sushi. But until tomorrow at 2, have a great rest of your night, everybody.